A brand new season of the GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS, begins right here. Welcome to Imola, a new venue for World Challenge Europe, with a hugely impressive entry and teams and drivers alike all keen to go racing after the enforced delay to the season. Last year, Lamborghini cleaned up, specifically the Orange One FFF racing team Lamborghini of Andrea Caldarelli, winning sprint and endurance titles, and this season the squad is back. Very much the benchmark Lamborghini team. Caldarelli is joined by his fellow champion of 2019 Marco Mappelli and Super Trofeo champion and GT World Challenge Asia champion Dennis Lind is back with the team, having missed the season closer last year due to illness. With speed, experience and a well-drilled team behind them, expect these drivers to be hard to beat once again this year.
This year, of course, it's a lot of pressure for us after a very successful 2019, but it's always like this when you go racing in a such high-level championship. There is pressure all the time, but it's going to be a very difficult season, but we are ready to fight for the championship again. It's going to be really, really fun.
In 2019, Andrea Caldarelli created a brand new Lamborghini team. The team was called Orange One FFF Racing. They came in, they didn't compete, they dominated, they wiped the floor with every championship driver and team championship, supported very strongly by Marco Mappelli and Dennis Lind. But the secret to their car success, their team success, was not just the great stellar driver lineup, but really good back-to-basics engineering. And they took the Lamborghini Huracan GT3 Evo to new levels of performance. So keep an eye on the Lamborghini number 63, Andrea Caldarelli, and that car will always push for the lead.
Orange One FFF Racing also runs a Pro-Am car, with reigning champions Hiroshi Hamaguchi and Phil Keane once more teaming up in a Huracan to take on the impressive Barwell Motorsport duo. BTCC race winner Rob Collard joins GT World Challenge Europe ranks with Leo Machitsky and impressive young Scot Sandy Mitchell, who both drove for Barwell in the Endurance Cup last season, while the second car boasts the impressive Patrick Kujala alongside Lamborghini World Final winner Frederick Schandorf and Brit Alex McDowell. But against Lamborghini comes another famous Italian brand. Against the Raging Bulls come plenty of prancing horses. Step forward, Ferrari's 488 GT3. AF Corsa has always been the top squad in Ferrari circles and has an impressive roster of drivers across its myriad teams this season.
Racing a Ferrari at Imola is always very special. Simple reason, the racetrack's actually known as the Autodromo Enzo and Dino Ferrari. So for no pressure for Alessandro Pierguidi, Nicholas Nielsen, James Collado in the 51 AF Corsa entry, they'll have a big mountain to climb. They've climbed it in the past, but it'll not be an easy race, and that additional pressure, well, get on with it, boys. No problem.
It will be fascinating to see how the SMP Racing entry fares not just this weekend, but this season. Ex-F1 racer Sergei Sorokin shares with the always rapid Davide Rigon and Miguel Molina. In Pro-Am, Ferraris will play a part. Champions Louis Machiels, Nick Homerson and Andrea Bertolini are perhaps the drivers to beat, but keep an eye on Rinaldi Racing's Pro-Am entry as Pierre Arret, Rino Mastronardi and German GT ace Daniel Kalvitz all pitch for glory. Also, Brit Chris Froggatt with Jonathan Hui and Eddie Cheever Jr. will be on their tail.
Really excited to be back racing. What a track to be at Imola to kick the season off. I mean, me and my teammates are very happy to be here and be pushing for Pro-Am championship contention. We'll see how the weekend goes, but just overall, so excited to be back in the car and pushing as hard as we can.
It's all change at Mercedes-AMG for 2020. Out goes Black Falcon and in comes Haupt Racing, Hubert Haupt's eponymous team. Sean Breslin moves from Black Falcon to oversee it all, and Haupt has signed up a mega entry in the Pro car of Vincent Abril, Luca Stoltz and Maro Engel. Stoltz and Engel have been regular title fighters these last few seasons and should be so again this year. Haupt has a Pro-Am car too, in which he races alongside Sergei Afanasiev and Finlay Hutchison, adding to the ultra-competitive class fight. But don't rule out ACA ASP with its fleet of cars. Raffaele Marciello heads the Pro car with Tibor Boguslavski, who shone in the Silver Cup last year, and Felipe Fraga, while ACA maintains a strong car in the Silver Cup and in Pro-Am too, in which Jim Pla will be the gun. Ram Racing's Mercedes-AMG became quicker as the season wore on last year, and Raymond Vos and Tom Onslow Cole are back again with a season's experience behind them. They should be in the mix for Pro-Am honours as well, while the Pro-Am SPS Racing entry has Florian Scholzer and Nico Bastien joining Christian Hook in another competitive car. But we're not done yet. Throw McLaren into the mix with two rival teams both offering quality lineups. 59 Racing pits British ace Ben Barnicoat with Martin Kodrich and Lewis Williamson, while rival Optimum Motorsport puts Oliver Wilkinson with Joe Osborne and Endurance Cup champion Rob Bell.
It's fantastic to be back. Brilliant to be racing again after obviously a very difficult period. So we're all absolutely delighted to be here in the sunshine. Brilliant to be at Imola, actually, old school circuit, which is something that all of us enjoy driving around. We've tested a bit, we seem to be okay, and the race is going to be extraordinarily tough. This series is one of the best in the world, and everyone's raring to go, everyone's fast, and we hope to be in the mix.
You want more? Aston Martin comes next. In the Silver Cup car comes quick young Frenchman Valentin Asclot and Andrew Watson, while Garage 59's second car in Pro-Am boasts Alexander West and Chris Goodwin. And because no Aston Martin team is complete without him, also in that car and set to make it fly is Johnny Adam.
Another great British brand is Aston Martin with their Vantage ARM GT3 entered by Garage 59, the car 188. The key to this car is Johnny Adam. He knows Aston Martin's inside out, upside down, always a challenge. In fact, he's a pro driver in this Pro-Am Cup. They're very lucky to have a guy of that quality behind the wheel of their Aston Martin this weekend.
Obviously, Johnny is a very experienced driver, so it's great to have him on board. I think we, like every team, have been affected by COVID. We're UK-based, so having somebody like Johnny who's actually based in the UK has made the whole testing and all the preparation for the season a lot easier. So I think we're in good shape. Obviously, the Pro-Am will be a new step for us and more competitive than the Am class was last year. You want to have competitors that are good and that challenge you, and then hopefully we'll all have clean racing and we'll have fantastic weeks.
From GT World Challenge America comes K-Pax Racing and its Bentley Continental GT3s. Jules Gounod and Maxime Soulet crew one car with Rodrigo Baptista, while the indefatigable Andy Soucek, a great Bentley ambassador these last seasons, is joined by Jordan Pepper and another GT star, Alvaro Parente.
The Bentley Continental GT3, look, it's a big car, we all know that, but it's light on its feet. And with someone like Alvaro Parente in particular, who's a multiple winner in multiple brands, that's the Bentley I'm going to say keep your eye on this weekend.
What an amazing track this is. It's been 11 years since my last race here in Formula 2, so it feels great to be back. And I have to say it is very exciting to drive around here in a GT3 car. So far so good, the car is going well, the team is doing a great job. Very good level here as every year. There is a lot of competitors that can be aiming to win this race, so let's try to do the best we can. But amazing feeling to get back in the car. I was really smiling on my first lap out there, and I'm really looking forward to the race.
Also for Bentley is the new academy run by Team Parker Racing. Ewan Mackay and Nikolai Schiergaard are both very accomplished as they join Frank Byrne for a GT3 assault. BMW, oddly, is short on numbers, but don't ignore the mighty M6 that Nick Yellerly shares in Pro-Am with Gilles Vannelet and Carrie Moget, who again could be potential class victors in a very competitive entry. We'd seen Lexus win in the Endurance Cup before, with Emile Frey doing the honours at Paul Ricard, but now Tech 1 Racing upholds Lexus's honour. Aurélien Panis, son of Monaco Grand Prix winner Olivier, shares with Thomas Neubauer and Timothée Bouret. Neubauer having proved himself in a Mercedes last year. It's a Silver Cup car, the class aimed at the young guns, and it should be one to watch.
Every year the competition will be really high. I mean, we have a lot of pro in the championship. We are racing in silver. I think the Lexus is a really good car. We have a good package with really good teammates, also two young drivers with Thomas Neubauer and Timothée Bouret. So we can, I think, fight on top, so it will be the goal for us.
No GT grid should be without Porsche. The cars come from a number of squads and have brought a number of factory drivers too. In the GPX racing cars, with Targa Florio retro liveries, are Patrick Pilet, Mathieu Jaminet and Matt Campbell, while Romain Dumas and Thomas Preining share the second car with SRO Esports champion and Haas F1 tester, Louis Delatraz.
It's great to be back with GPX racing in the championship. super happy. I mean, it's been a long break and everyone's very motivated. We have a clear goal is winning, and have a good lineup with my teammates, so super excited and can't wait to go for it.
Rover Racing brings Julian Andlauer, Klaus Bachler and Dirk Werner, while Dynamic Motorsport has another pace-setting car for Sven Muller, Matteo Cairoli and Christian Engelhardt, who is rejoining the Porsche ranks after a number of seasons with Lamborghini. Dynamic took a shock win at Monza last year and is an even stronger team 18 months on. Expect Porsches to be fighting for wins this year.
What's left to say about Porsche that hasn't been said already? The 911 GT3R, well, I would call it venerable. Nick, it's only been in manufacture for 56 years, and it still won Spa 24 Hours last year, and it went on to win the final major event of the season in Kyalami, the 9 Hours. Factory drivers, a car that is so well sorted, and of course you've got that wonderful Teutonic mentality and attitude. We will do it our way, and we will win.
And then there is Audi. Hordes of Audis. WRT has been the top dog in Audi terms for many seasons, so can the Belgian team retain its mantle in 2020? Mirko Bortolotti defects from Lamborghini to head one car with Kelvin van der Linde and Mathieu Vazivière, who moves from Aston Martin, while Christopher Mies and Dries Vanthoor share a second car with the ever-improving Charles Weers. Stuart Hall is guiding Ben Goethe in a third car, in which they are joined by Rick Brokers, and they should be quick in the Silver Cup contest.
Yeah, it's great to be back. Obviously, it's been a long wait. It's been a really strange year, unfortunately. So it's good to be back in a paddock. It's good to be back racing. We can't wait to start again. And it's also great to be back racing in Italy on a fantastic track such as Imola. New challenges for me with Audi this year and Team WRT. So I'm really looking forward to not only to the weekend, but obviously to the whole season. And great to be back with you guys in this fantastic championship.
Santalot Racing's Audis are always competitive as well. Marcus Winkelhock shares one with Dorian Boccolacci and Audi stalwart Christopher Haase, while Clement Seiler moves up from GT4 to drive a second car with Michael Blanchemin and Arthur Rougier. Another Audi to watch is the Attempto entry, in which another factory Audi driver Frederic Verviche is placed, alongside Mathieu Drudy and Kim Louis Schramm. And in fairness, those are just some of the highlights in the entry. There are plenty of new drivers, some new teams, and a top quality entry list. Welcome to GT World Challenge Europe, and welcome to a who's who of GT racing. So the grid starting to form here at Imola. Finally, we can go racing in the GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS. The first race of the year. It's the first round of the Endurance Cup. It's a new venue. FIA GT last here 2005 as an SRO connection as the promoter of GT World Challenge Europe. We've got new drivers, we've got new teams, we have got, of course, new protocols in place. And we are looking forward to what promises to be an excellent race to kick off the championship, which will then go to Misano, then to the Nürburgring, to Manicourt, to Zandvoort, to Barcelona. The blue ribbon round is the Total 24 Hours of Spa, and it will finish at Paul Ricard in mid-November. So 8 events across endurance and sprint, with in some cases the endurance races longer than initially planned to make up the distance over the course of the season, and in some cases as well 3 sprint races to a weekend, because we have lost 2 race weekends due to the COVID-19 situation. Well, I've talked about all the new things. It's a new calendar as well. Some things never change. David Addison and John Watson looking forward to 3 hours of all action GT racing, John, at a proper old school circuit.
Fantastic. I love Imola. I came here first 1972. The circuit was slightly different then. It was a much more free-flowing circuit. A chicane, well, people hadn't even talked about chicanes, let alone implemented the chicanes. What we're going to see here today, I hope, will be another cracking round of 3-hour endurance racing. Here is now the current layout of the Imola circuit, 4.9 kilometres, 21 turns. Still the basic layout of the circuit. What I do like is the exit of Ravazza, which is the last corner on the circuit before you come to start, finish straight. They've deleted what was the final chicane, so now it's a run flat out from Ravazza all the way down to the chicane at Tamburello. But David, we've had racing drivers in lockdown, or whatever they call it, for 4.5, no, nearly 6 months in some cases. The competitors are, they're raw. I just hope when the lights go out and they make the charge down into Tamburello, the chicane, that they remember that the chicane is an island in the middle of a sea of gravel. Don't do something you'll regret, because I promise you, if you get into that gravel, it might be your race over, or you certainly could spoil a lot of other people's events as well.
Absolutely. All this about you can't win at the first corner, but you can lose, will be very relevant indeed. Now, down on the grid is Gemma Scott, and she is with Raffaele Marciello, one of the Mercedes AMG GT3 stars aboard car 88.
Raffaele, it's your race here, home race for you in Imola. You're known to be very, very quick, starting here in third position. What are your expectations?
I mean, it's a long race, it's quite hot, and we'll try to stay safe at the start, and then, I mean, we will see. We just have to be careful of curbs, they're quite high, and as I said, it's a 3-hour race. We will try to keep clean and try to finish as high as possible.
You mentioned there the temperature, it is hot, but there's a little bit of breeze cooling things slightly as we speak.
Yeah, it depends when there is a cloud or something. I mean, it's quite hot here. In Misano will be hot as well, and I mean it's July, so it's quite normal.
Nonetheless, great to get back out racing.
Yeah, it's finally. I mean, I did already a few races at Nordschleife, but it's quite nice that everything is kind of normal and we're back racing. Yes.
Thank you very much. Have a great race.
Thank you.
So, of course, everybody on the grid, and there are reduced numbers of personnel here with the face masks. Gemma 2 metres away for social distancing purposes, but we'll do our best to get news from the pits and hear from people over the course of 3 hours. John, we call it the Endurance Cup, but it's a flat-out 3-hour sprint, isn't it?
I mean, absolutely. From the minute the lights go out, it will be flat out under the entire 46-car grid. And if you take maybe the first 20 cars covered by under a second, that gives you an indication of how competitive it will be. But I keep repeating that these drivers, some of them did race early in the year, maybe at Daytona or other events outside of Europe, but fundamentally, they're coming into this having not driven a race. And the difference between going out and doing practice and pre-qualifying and qualifying is you're not doing it with a load of cars around you. You've got to remember the opening laps are really, really treacherous.
Many of them have been doing the SRO GT esports series, but even that's nothing like the real deal. And one man delighted to go back racing is the governor. Let's hear from Stefan Rattel.
Stefan, finally we're back out racing. It's been a difficult time for all organisations to get back out onto track, but well done to your team.
Thank you. We are, it's been a long winter, a long spring. We're already deep in the summer. The situation has been extremely difficult for everyone. The World Challenge, as you know, is a World Series. In America, we started with a very low grid. In Asia, we can't start, unfortunately. But in Europe, this grid is just unbelievable. To have such a number of cars and such a quality of cars, I think the qualification has proven that it's more competitive than ever. 26 cars in 1 second, 9 different manufacturers in 0.3 of a second. This is GT racing at its best. We're also very pleased that the whole paddock, everyone is very concerned by the COVID measures. We're all wearing masks, everybody's keeping social distance, and I wish that all countries will do the same, and that we will get out of this difficult situation as soon as possible.
Yeah, we all do, and absolutely it's great to be setting the example globally as a world recognised championship.
Thank you. No, it's we're very, I think it helps the whole world of GT racing, from GT3, GT4, national. Next week we're starting in the UK, and then in France, and we have many championships around the world. Next race in America is in Sonoma, and we hope we will build a calendar in Asia at the end of the year. We're not giving up. We want to be running on all continents like we always do and finish with the Intercontinental GT Challenge in South Africa.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Stefan. Thank you.
We continue. Thank you. Enjoy the show.
Enjoy the show, we always do, because when you've got this, first of all, number of cars and this depth of quality of driver across the entry, you can't not enjoy it, John.
No, and what has been impressive, and Stefan Rattel alluded to it, is the fact that the grid is so competitive. You know, having had very little testing, teams will have been out doing individual runs, but fundamentally we've taken what we had at the end of 2019, almost turbocharged it and given it even more va-va-voom, because look, when looking at Audi's, there's pole position car, Fred Vavish behind the wheel. Audi's were at the back end of the year not necessarily the most winning team of the 2019 season. They're back with a vengeance. The car, I don't know what they've done to it. We do know that Pirelli have introduced a remodeled tyre, and in that maybe they've got a tyre that is more generous to the particular qualities that the Audi has. Whatever it is, that car is back at the races big time, on pole position, and alongside it, the emotional, there it is, the 51 Ferrari, James Collado behind the wheel. We're at the Circuito, Enzo and Dino Ferrari. Dino, of course, was the young son of Enzo Ferrari, tragically passed away in the early middle 50s. This place has been around a long time. The legend of Ferrari is written across it, like I keep saying, Bognor Regis Rock. Let's call it something else this time. It's emotional for any Ferrari driver to be here at Imola, competing in a major event.
Well, Raffaele Marciello we've heard from, and the Italian is a real star in Mercedes. You tend to have some drivers in GT racing that you associate as being the trailblazer for one particular brand, and Raffaele is arguably it for Mercedes. Lucas Stoltz or Mauro Engel might disagree, because they, for a rival Mercedes team, are very, very good indeed. Now, Dennis Lind here, he has been GT Series Asia champion. He's a Lamborghini Super Trofeo champion. He's part of the Lamborghini factory program. He is a very feisty driver indeed, is Dennis, and he is one to watch as he will do the opening stint in the car that won the championship last year. Matt Campbell starts for the GPX racing team, which is running in the Gulf colours, these retro Targa Florio liveries. They look great on these cars, and we've got a much greater Porsche presence this year, John, not only in terms of the overall category, but within Pro-Am as well.
Well, I mean, it's a great brand, first of all. We know that the car was so successful in 2019, winning Spa 24, winning the 9 hours of Kyalami. It's an option for teams, rather than looking at the teams that are directly influenced by factory drivers. So a great option. I'm personally delighted. I mean, I've been a lifelong fan, signed up since I was about 9 years of age.
What about McLaren fans? They're well represented. You've got Martin Kodrich starting here in number 60, this car for 59 Racing, the AF Engineering entry that he shares with Ben Barnicoat and with Lewis Williamson, the Australian team. That's going to be one to watch. This is the new car, the new McLaren 720S. We've got 10 different brands on the grid, and Audi, which has not had a win since Monza 2018 in the Endurance Cup. Good to go. Now, 31 is intriguing. Kelvin van der Linde knows Audi's inside out. Mathieu Vazivière switches from Aston Martin. Mirko Bortolotti switches from Lamborghini.
Big change, and I have to say both Vavier and Mirko Bortolotti acquitted themselves extremely well in the new seat that they're in. And I just go back to the comment I made earlier that the Audi, they're back at the races, and I suppose if you're driven an Aston Martin mid-front engine car, it's quite a transition for Mirko Bortolotti coming from the Lamborghini, and of course Lamborghini, Audi, all part of the VW Audi family. So familiar with the engine, the drivetrain, but the aerodynamics of the two cars are different. And probably the mechanical side, there are enough subtle differences to notice as a driver.
Bentley, you saw a moment ago, number 3, firing the engine up. Rodrigo Baptista will go first. There's the front of the grid with the grey Audi on pole position, that of Fred Verviche, Audi factory driver, to go first. It's a counterclockwise circuit, the Imola track, 4.9 kilometres long, and it is the first time the Endurance Cup has raced on an anti-clockwise circuit. Sprint has done it only one venue, Moscow, but for the Endurance Championship, anti-clockwise track for the first time. As the leading car then blasts away, if you're new to GT racing, it's going to be a rolling start, so the cars at the end of this lap don't stop on the grid. We go straight into the race. You have to make 2 pit stops under the regulations. You can anticipate those will come at the end of each hour, or just around the hour mark. There's a limit on the amount of time that a driver can do. It's 65 minutes to a stint, so that really is where you try to make your pit stop. and if you want to do it in laps rather than in time, somewhere between 33 to 35 laps is the expectation. Now, teams, they're not worried about tyres, they're not worried about fuel, that's going to be okay. They are a bit concerned about brakes. It's going to be hard on brakes, and teams also thinking that we might have occasional visits from the safety car. Now, it is Fred Verviche on pole position. Lining up alongside is James Collado, Raffaele Marciello and Matt Campbell for Mercedes and Porsche on the second row of the grid. The third row, Mathieu Bazilière starts Audi 31, and Mauro Engel will be alongside him in the number 4 Haupt Racing Team Mercedes. Seventh on the grid is where you find Timothy Bure, looking very strong yesterday in the Tech 1 Racing Lexus, and Rodrigo Baptista is the best of the Bentley boys, going from 8th. Miguel Molina starts 9th in the SMP Racing Ferrari alongside Christian Engelhardt, going back to Porsche for this year. Marcus Winkelhock starts 11th, and the Lamborghini Franck Pereira is alongside, with Martin Kodrich 13th on the grid, and Jordan Pepper in the second of the K-Paps Racing Bentleys starting 14th. Christopher Mees will be one to watch 15th, sharing with Dries Van Thor and Charles Viet, and it is multiple Le Mans winner Romain Dumas starting number 40 Porsche from 16th on the grid, ahead of Andrew Watson's Garage 59 Aston Martin, and Dirk Werner for Rover Racing next on the grid. Dennis Lind, a long way back, 19th he is, lining up alongside Frederick Schandorf, ahead of Maxi Buch, who's also one to watch, and then McLaren factory driver Joe Osborne starting for Optimum. Giovanni Venturini, 23rd on the grid, alongside Tommaso Mosca, and then Norbert Siedler and Alex Fontana are on the 13th row. Row 14, Frank Bird starts the Team Parker Racing Bentley Academy Continental GT3 alongside Patrick Assenheimer's Mad Panda Motorsport Mercedes. Next on the grid, you find Rick Brokers lining up alongside Andrea Rizzoli, who won the opening round of last year's Endurance Cup at Monza. Next up, Florian Latour and Chris Froggatt in the Sky Tempesta Racing Ferrari, with Hubert Haupt and former British touring car star Rob Collard on the 17th row of the grid. The 18th row, Jean-Luc Bobely lines up alongside Nick Commerson, Quick Ams, both those. Alexander West and Pierre Arret are on the next row, ahead of Christian Hook and the reigning Pro-Am champion Hiroshi Hamaguchi, who will share with Phil Keane. Go to row 21, you find Raymond Vos and Tom Onslow Cole's Ram Racing Mercedes alongside Michael Blanchimont. The penultimate row is where you find Petru Razvan Umberescu, ex-GT4 racer, alongside Gilles Vanelay. And the back row, Roberto Pampanini's Porsche and Bernard Delhay in his Bentley. That gives you 46 cars ready for 3 hours of racing. This is going to be fantastic.
Control yourself, gentlemen, because there are only gentlemen in this race today. So that runs on. It's quite a reasonable run from the start line back down to Tamburello, and it will be a concertina. 46 cars. Remember, those at the front will be hard on the brakes making their entry into Tamburello. Those at the back still flat out. It's those that are in the middle between maybe rows 5 and rows 15 that are the ones that are always in that danger zone. So be just cautious.
Alain Adon, the race director for GT World Challenge Europe, will give the call if he's happy with everybody's position in this Noah's Ark 2x2 formation then, as they rumble their way up towards the timing line, ready for 3 hours of racing at Imola. When the lights change, we will be in business as that long, fast run down towards the Tamburello. The lights on red change now. We go racing for the first time this season. 3 hours of GT action. It's go. A great start by the Audi of Fred Verviche. He will lead on the run down to Tamburello, but can he hang on in there on the inside line? Yes is the answer, but only just. James Collado is next and off the road there. Look, it's the Mercedes number 4 being squeezed out wide. Mauro Engel is off. He's the only one that is off. Everybody else comes pouring through. He's back on the racetrack. That could have been a whole lot worse. Tamburello was always going to be a pinch point. Surprisingly, only one in strife. Everybody else gets away with it. Yes, there's a lot of ducking and weaving as people try and go for position now. Through Villeneuve, on towards Tosa, others running out wide, just getting away with it as they skim the curve. But take a deep breath. Through Tosa, for the first time they will come. Climb the hill. You see Bentley number 3 of Rodrigo Baptista being forced out wide on the outside line. Fred Verviche leads the way. The yellow Mercedes and Maxi Buch goes off the road and back on again. As predicted, it's all kicked off at the start.
Well, that's what 46 car grid looks like on a 4.9-kilometre circuit. The lead cars were exiting the Villeneuve chicane while the tail of the field was just coming through the end of the Tamburello chicane. So there's about almost a 600-metre spread of cars in the space of half a lap. Now down into Acqua Minerale. Tricky corner, particularly the second part of the corner. But look, coming up into Varianza, the Mercedes all over the back of James Collado and the Ferrari. Just take it easy again. This part of the circuit, a lot of track limited use. You can see cars just jumping on the first part of the chicane. You turn right, then turn left. down the hill into Ravazza. Mercedes all over the back of the Ferrari.
That's Marciello having a go at James Collado, and then number 54, Christian Engelhardt, getting up the inside of Mathieu Vezivier. Is he? Not quite. Mathieu Vezivier might be new to Audi, but he knows how to defend nonetheless. Comes up to complete lap number 1 here. 3 hours of racing. The opening round of the GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS. The first Endurance Cup race of the year. It's been a long time coming, but a 46-strong entry. Outstanding quality as well. 1 lap is in the book, and the race leader is Fred Verviche, and he's already 1.6 seconds clear, largely because James Collado is having to think about defending from Marciello and from Matt Campbell, and there's another one off through the gravel.
It's one of the Lamborghinis.
It's a Barwell car, isn't it?
I think it is.
Dare I say Rob Collard?
I think you might be right.
Rob, welcome to the GT world. After many, many years of getting his elbows out in the British Touring Car Championship. Now this in Pro-Am is Chris Froggatt's view. The leaders, though, are going up through Tosa. Verviche is away and gone. James Collado is doing him a real favour because he's the cork in the bottle.
Absolutely, and I don't know what the problem for Collado is, whether he hasn't got his tyres up to race temperature. Everybody else behind him is just trying to find a way, forcing a way, particularly Raffaele Marciello in the Mercedes, and given half a gap, he'll make it a whole gap if he can get the chance.
Drop downhill, then head towards the Acqua Minerale. Imola, of course, set to be a Formula 1 venue again this year as the calendar changes all the time, as more venues, more countries become options for Liberty and the Formula 1 management. Look back as you climb out of Acqua Minerale, over the brow, up towards the Variante Alta. You're on board with Jordan Pepper, the South African, in the K-Pax Racing Bentley. He's in 11th place at the moment. And there, right on his tail, Martin Kodrich in this new McLaren.
Yes, and coming through that final chicane at the top of the circuit, highest part of the circuit, then you drop down into two-part Ravazza. Yet again, Marciello and the Mercedes really can't get any closer to the back of James Collado and the Ferrari. He will try and use the slipstream, but the Ferrari is quick in a straight line and gets off that final part of the Ravazza very well anyway. So whatever the problems that Collado had on the opening lap, I think maybe now the car is beginning to fire, getting those tyres up to temperature, up to pressure, and will maybe be able to keep Marciello and that attack that has been held up since the race got underway.
So the leaders go through. Collado there putting a lot of effort through the Tamburello. You see just running a little bit wider than Raffaele Marciello behind him in that 3rd place. 4th still is Matt Campbell. Mathieu Vazivier is 5th in the Audi, and 6th next to the Porsches, the Dynamic Motorsports entered car, Italian team, in the hands of Christian Engelhardt. 7th is the Lexus, Timothy Bure. 8th, Miguel Molina's Ferrari. One of the drivers of which, incidentally, former Grand Prix racer Sergei Sorokin. 9th is the Audi of Marcus Winkelhock, and Franck Pereira is 10th in the quicker Emil Frey racing Lamborghini. But the lead gap at the start of this 3rd lap was 1.6 seconds, as right now Fred Verviche continues to get away.
Yes, and of course that's allowing the rest of the field. Matt Campbell following behind in the Porsche, and then you've got Vervier in the 2nd of the Audis in the top 5 down through Acqua Minerale. The gap is set up 1.2 seconds. It's now 1.9 in fact at that checkpoint on this 5th lap.
So Marciello flicks through the Variante Alta. Then you can see just how close it is. Now, if you're new to GT racing, there is something we'll talk about more called the balance of performance that tries to get these different engine sizes, different weights, different displacements, turbo, normally aspirated cars, all on an even keel. And it works very, very well. It therefore brings everybody to kind of the same pace. In turn, it means that you've got to really work oh so hard to overtake because the cars are so evenly matched. And proof of that was what Stefan Rattal said before the race about the number of cars all covered by 1 second. There is the leader. Fred Verviche leads the way. 2nd is the Ferrari of James Collado. And 3rd, it is Raffaele Marciello in the Mercedes. 4th. In 4th place, it is the Matt Campbell Porsche. 5th, Mathieu Vazivier in the Audi. In 6th spot, Christian Engelhardt's Porsche. 7th, heading the Silver Cup, Timothy Bure. Miguel Molina's Ferrari. 8th, Marcus Winkelhock is in 9th. 10th is Franck Pereira. You see the cars come streaming through. Now you've got not only the overall situation to factor into this, but you've got the Silver Cup, you've got the Pro-Am and the Am ranks as well. The leading Silver Cup car currently is the 15 Tech 1 Racing Lexus, Aurélien Paris, Timothy Bure, Thomas Neubauer. The leading Pro-Am entry is 93, which is the Sky Tempesta Racing Ferrari of Chris Froggatt, Jonathan Quee and Eddie Cheever. And 108 is the leading Am car, the Am car indeed. Bernard Delhay starting in the Bentley he shares with Romano Ricci and Stefan Tribodini. They at the moment are in 44th place. Now what has happened to Bentley number 3? Why is Rodrigo Baptista in 45th place? That car was pretty well placed on the grid, but clearly has had a drama early doors.
Well, we don't know. I mean, the obvious answer is he's picked up a puncture somewhere around the circuit, other than he's been off track, but we have not seen any reports or any images of that car not being there, being pushed back into the garage. So it's a technical issue for that Bentley. Disappointing for Tech Pack to have that car so early. As we go back to the battle for second place, James Collado doing all he needs to do to keep the Mercedes Raffaele Marciello behind him. It's Matt Campbell, the third of these three cars, and the Porsche is the one I'm keeping an eye on, because I think once he is released, he will go with Marciello and try and make progress to get into second, maybe third position.
But James Collado's pace and his defence of second place has given Fred Vavish the golden ticket at the moment, because that lead is going up, isn't it, all the time? Audi to the opposition.
Yeah, it's up to 2.2 seconds, so it doesn't seem an awful lot from 1.9, 3/10 of a second pass coming up into Tamburello. Mclaren involved, can't quite see which of the two cars it was.
I think it was Christopher Mies in the Audi, wasn't it, trying to go round on the outside. There he is, so Mies has got himself just ahead of the McLaren, which in turn is defending.
So this midfield bunch, and they're all over the racetrack. Defence going on, attack coming down to the Villeneuve, quick entry into Villeneuve, the transition to the right, not quite so quick. And the 63 Lamborghini finally showing some pace up the inside, gets past the Porsche.
On board with Dennis Lind. So this is 63 Lamborghini. Dennis is way down in, can you believe it, 17th place. And part of the problem is this traffic jam ahead of him. He just can't find a way by. It's not the widest of circuits, but here's a place about to be gained. No, everyone slows. We've got a full course yellow potentially.
And
some
danger.
are responding and others aren't.
Everybody coming down into Acqua Minerale, the Aston leading the group of cars into Acqua Minerale, hard on the brakes as the Lamborghini was lining up to try and make an overtake, and all of a sudden those behind realised what was happening and just managed to avoid tailgating the car directly ahead of them.
So full course yellow we have had, and this is the reason why. It is number 44 Mercedes, which is Christian Hook out of Pro-Am, who's made a right mess of the exit of Rivazza. He's made a right mess of the tyre barrier, and the Mercedes doesn't look too hot anymore, which is a shame because it's one of the smarter liveries, but that has made it to the pits. But it's the track furniture, if you like, the barriers that need repairing and making sure that the circuit is safe before we can get things back underway. So Alain Adon, the race director, calls for a full course yellow here at Imola.
Yeah, I mean, for the corner workers to get down to Tossa, the exit of Rivazza, get that damage done. Probably the barrier's not too badly damaged, but nevertheless they have to be returned to the condition they were in prior to the incident. The Mercedes was very close to the pit lane entry, so it was a quick trip from the racetrack back into pit lane. But the team will have to go to work, and whether there's mechanical damage or whether it's just more superficial with bodywork, well, they'll find that out.
So downhill, everybody pause. The full course yellow meaning that you go at the required delta speed rather than bunching up as you would under the safety car. It also gives the race officials the chance to get rid of the full course yellow and restart the race on short notice, instead of having to have everyone circling around, catching the safety car, and then the field being released accordingly. So as soon as the, if you like, furniture has been repaired, expect the race to get back underway. Sometimes, if it's a long period, the cars will go behind the safety car ready for a restart, but not always. So we'll wait and see what the race director feels. It rather depends how long this situation takes to clear.
Yes, we didn't get a really good view of the damage to the barrier. It's on the inside of the exit of the Rivazza corner. Until we can get an indication if that's a structural damage to the barrier or whether it's just the superficial damage, we'll then determine the length of time these cars will be running under these conditions, full course yellow. If it's only going to be anything longer, then more than likely it will be a full safety car deployment.
So the field now turning down through Tamburello. Fred Vavish then is the race leader for Audi. Ferrari second, James Collado at the wheel. Third, Raffaele Marciello Mercedes. Fourth, Porsche, Matt Campbell. And in fifth place, Mathieu Vezivier for Audi. Sixth, Porsche, Christian Engelhardt. And seventh, the Lexus, leading the Silver Cup. Timothy Bure is at the wheel of it. Andrew Watson is second in Silver Cup, as you see from the graphic. Frederick Schandorf is third, ahead of Tommaso Mosca, Alex Fontana. And then Frank Bird in the Bentley, the young British driver. He runs in sixth place at the moment. So the Silver Cup, which is aimed at the young guns. And in Pro-Am, it is Chris Froggatt, who's 3 places better off from his grid spot, ahead of Nick Homerson, the reigning Pro-Am champion. Rob Collard may have been off the road at the start, but he's 3rd in class ahead of Alexander West and then Jean-Luc Bobelik. Hiroshi Hamaguchi is 6th from Pierre-Eric Ramon-Vos, Roberto Pampanini, and then Gilles Vanelay to round out the top 10. Christian Hook, as we have seen, the one in strife and in the pit lane. The AM class is not quite as strong on numbers this week, but Bernard Delhay in the 108 Bentley leads that, but Pro-Am headed by the Ferrari you see going through there of Chris Froggatt, Jonathan Wheat, the Hong Kong driver, and Eddie Cheever the next. 3rd, 4th, 5th, which one is he?
Well, Eddie Cheever Jr. is number 2. Then
right.
There's certainly a 3, and I'm not sure whether the Eddie Cheever we have here is 3 or possibly even 4.
Well, he's been the 3rd driver. He's certainly not the starting driver, we know that. Chris Froggatt goes first, and there he is. Chris drove in the championship last year, having come from the European Ferrari Challenge, and a very competitive driver he proved to be in that. So, also represented Great Britain within the FIA Motorsport Games GT race last year with Flick Hay, British GT champion. So the full course yellow still operational. The teams were fearing safety cars. Well, they've got a full course yellow that might evolve into a safety car period, but for the moment it's our first full course yellow of the season.
And of course, when this race is released, we're going to have the same fundamental problem we had at the start. The entire field is actually running nose to tail,
yes,
as they were required to do under the Delta, and there's going to be again another mad charge once the track goes green.
Yes, full course yellows and safety cars can breed full course yellows and safety cars, can't they? We may have more, as John suggests. That's Nick Homerson, the reigning Pro-Am champion, won with Louis Machiels and Andrea Bertolini as he goes downhill, heading towards Rivazza. The field heading over the line. Of course, one of the problems we've got in current motor racing, no matter what the nationality of the organisers, no matter what the category, is that with the requirement for social distancing and therefore fewer people allowed on site, part of that means fewer marshals, which means that some situations take longer to clear because there are fewer people able to do it than you would normally have.
Indeed, I mean the effect of the COVID-19 is just, it spreads everywhere. In the event of running a race meeting, the only place it doesn't have an effect is actually in this line of cars. They can run pretty much as close as they can to the other car within a certain limit. Otherwise you're going to end up with your car getting maybe overheated. But as they continue now, they're coming on to the 7th lap that they've gone on to, just running around the pace of the safety car, waiting for the work to be completed down at the exit of Rivazza, looking back from Dennis Lin's Lamborghini. Disappointing, I felt, that the car and the team that were so dominant in 2019 didn't fare better in qualifying. But that's the nature of the business, and because the BOP has a bearing on that. But one might say, has maybe Lamborghini been slightly more affected by BOP than by other teams?
So there you have the leaders going through Tosa, and of course everybody having to maintain station here. No overtaking permitted under the full course yellow. You see Jordan Pepper there on his toes in the number 9 Bentley. Of course, that's the sole car now really upholding K-Pac's honour, because although number 3 is back on track, it is out of position. So Rodrigo Baptista has just gone through the shot, but actually he's a lap or so down and in 45th place. So that car with, I'm afraid, problems early on. Lead gap, for what it is worth, under the full course yellow conditions, still 3.3 seconds. They're going through Rick Brokers in the Gulf liveried Audi, run by WRT. Some great liveries we've got in the championship this year. Different sponsors coming in and different drivers bringing their own ideas of liveries, but we've got some really standout colour schemes.
Well, you mentioned already the Gulf sponsored cars, a tribute to Porsche's 908-3 model, which was dominant in the Targa Florio in 1971, and over the range of those GPX Porsche entries, they will represent the 3 different individual paint identifications that Porsche ran in that, well, legendary race down in Sicily.
Now, we saw on the opening lap Mauro Engel heading through the gravel. I understand number 12 Matt Campbell was involved in that, and that's going to be investigated after the race. So the drivers will be able to give their evidence in due course, but again, because of social distancing, you can't have too many people in the room all at the same time, so the stewards are having to do this in a different way. That is one of the most spectacular liveries of the lot, isn't it, this weekend?
Yeah, I call it the Roy Lichtenstein version of a Mercedes-Benz. I mean, it is, I think it's wonderful. I think to see car graphics that are more than the sort of the standard, rather more bland black or white or standard bold colours. It just stands out amongst all the others. And I mean, I'm sure somebody in the world will want to buy a replica of that car as a road car.
The livery designed on that by the Czech artist Michal Škápa, and as the car slots into place, it is the one of Ramon Vos and Tom Onslow Cole, just to make the point, and that is why we have the full course yellow. That barrier repair is almost done, John.
Yes, there's the tyre barrier in front of the actual Armco barrier itself. So the tyre, the bale of tyres, there's a binding band of rubber that secures all those tyres together. So that might have been compromised, and that's the reason why you see engineers there with drills and making sure that the integrity of that part of the circuit, should another car go off, and the exit of Ravatsa is not an unknown part of the circuit to go off.
Indeed. Attempto Racing then, Akinaka's team, has the race lead, and it is Fred Vervish at the wheel, which means that one of his co-drivers, Mathieu Drudi, is able to stand and watch all of this and stand at 2 metres apart from Gemma Scott.
Mathieu, a fantastic start from you guys. The start looks very bunched up and quite close between all the cars, but you've managed to pull out and get the gap.
Yeah, so Fred is doing a really good job at the moment. We are following our plan, so we use the maximum of starting from P1, so the car is doing a good job. I mean, all the team did a really good job through the weekend. We did some 3 good laps yesterday on quali, so we're trying to continue like that. We'll go in the final hour, so we will see, and let's keep the finger crossed.
Have you got any concerns for the rest of the race?
I mean, today is going to be really hard. The temperature is really high, so in the car will be really, really hot for the tires as well, so it will be really important to manage the tires. And we will see. We tested a lot for a long run, and we were really confident, so we will see at the end of the race.
Look, the field is pretty close. Who is your main threat out there at the moment?
Yeah, I think all the cars behind us are really competitive, so we have, I think, like 10 or 15 cars who can fight for the win. So, I don't know, I will tell you later, but all the cars are really strong.
It's a long way to go.
Yeah, still 3 hours, so we will see.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, bye.
Now we've got safety car, so everybody bunches up. Why, you might ask, do you go safety car at the end of a full course yellow period? Well, one of the key answers is this. Because they've had a long full course yellow period, tyre temperatures, tyre pressures have dropped. What the safety car allows you to do, partly is get everybody in a line, yes, but it also means you can, under a controlled form, up the pace, get the tyre pressures up, get the tyre temperatures up over 2, maybe 3 laps, and then let them go. So actually, it's a safer way of restarting after a long period of slow motoring.
Yes, and bear in mind that the race will get underway as they cross the finish line, start-finish straight, and there's a reasonably long run down into Tamburello. You want to have grip from the tyre, you want to brake pressure, you want to make sure that the brake is up to temperature as well. The one maybe benefit from running behind the safety car is the pace that you're running behind the safety car is that much higher than under a full course yellow. So the field is actually more spread out now than it was under a full course yellow. Nevertheless, when this race goes back to green, which probably it will do maybe another lap, maybe 2 laps, it certainly it would be again that mid-field to the tail of the field where everything just concertinas as you come down into the braking, and while it's straight into Tamburello, you're actually marginally turning in still on the brakes. So this is the entry to Tamburello, looking back, then the transition to the right, then the exit. The beauty of this chicane at Tamburello is it's actually a reasonably good chicane by the standards of some pretty awful ones on other racetracks. It gets quicker as you go through it, and at the point of exit you're picking up maybe up to 160 kilometers per hour.
We are going to go racing at the end of this lap, I'm told, so the safety car should peel in. You can see the drivers jinking about, getting the warmth back in the rubber. There's confirmation there, safety car in at the end of this lap, and the drivers heading uphill out of Tosa. So Fred Vervish had a good lead of well over 3 seconds. He's going to have to do it all over again. And let's see whether James Collado is going to be able to go with it, or indeed whether Raffaele Marciello in that 3rd place Mercedes can find a way past him.
Well, bearing in mind how strong Marciello was on the opening lap, and how I thought maybe James Collado hadn't quite got the temperature into the tyre that he needed to give him the confidence, I suspect keep an eye on Marciello, because he will be doing everything. This is his best opportunity once this racetrack goes green to steal a position away from the Ferrari, get into second place, and then look at what he can try and do with Frederik Verviers in the lead Audi.
So the cars come through Variante Alta, ride the curve, and now head down to Rivazza, lights out on top of the safety car. That in turn is therefore heading for the pit lane, and of course Fred Verviers now backs everybody up, gives himself enough clear track ahead so that when he accelerates, which he is doing now, he's away and gone, and he can keep on accelerating. He wants to try and get the jump on James Collado, but Raffaele Marciello wants to get past that Ferrari, and he wants to do it as soon as he can, which is when they break the beam.
Yes, indeed. So once they go across start-finish line, keep an eye on third place Mercedes-Benz. Also Matt Campbell in the fourth place Porsche. If the story is true that Campbell and the Mercedes came into contact in Tamburello, would indicate that one of those two cars was not going to be a bit shy about sticking its nose down the inside to try and get a position. But Verviers has done the business, so has Collado. In fact, first four, no change into Tamburello on the restart.
Out of Tamburello they come then, so Fred Verviers trying to build that gap once more as they wriggle their way through that left, right, left sequence. You can see how they've all bunched up. The field flows through down towards Tosa now, and Verviers is doing it again. Look, Collado is having to go defensive. He's got Marciello and Campbell queued up behind him. So again, it means that this is all playing into the hands of Fred Verviers in that race leading Audi. He does the first stint. Mattia Drudi and Kim Louis Schramm, the two drivers that will divide the other 2/3 of the race between them.
Up the hill, looking backwards. You get to the top of the hill, there's a the crest flattens out, they're diving down. The Bentley, the second of the two Bentleys that is running competitively down the hill into Acqua Minerale. Again, everybody more or less being dictated their pace by the car directly ahead of them. The chance to overtake into Acqua Minerale, not great up the hill into Variante Alta. Remember, these GT3 cars are physically large cars. This is an old school circuit. Now Marciello gets alongside the Ferrari. Two wheels almost on the grass. He's done the hard yards to get up alongside. He will have the higher ground coming down the hill into Rivazza. Collado's not going to give it up, and he's going to have to find the long way around. Matt Campbell in the Porsche directly behind. He's going to try and now use that opportunity to move up one more place.
Now we'll see who has got the heavy right foot, who has got the bravery going into Tamburello, because it's speed building all the time on this part of the circuit. Past the pits they come then. So Raffaele Marciello finally released from behind the Ferrari, and now he sets off in pursuit of Fred Verviers. The gap is 1.3 seconds. It's Collado third in the Ferrari, Matt Campbell fourth in the Porsche, who does not think about dive-bombing the Ferrari going into Tamburello. Fifth behind is Vazivier, sixth is Engelhardt. So James Collado, yes, loses the place, but at least he hangs on, keeping Matt Campbell at bay. But look, Marciello is escaping.
Yes, he was 1.3 seconds when he came across start-finish line. As just having taken second place, watch and see in one lap how much the gap is probably now down to just about a second. In fact, waiting to see at the next checkpoints where Marciello is, but certainly pulling away relatively comfortably from the Ferrari. The Ferrari now bunching up Matt Campbell, second of the Audis, and the rest of the field. Campbell, again, you can just see the pace of the Porsche at the top of the hill around the Piratella. Now the drop down into Acqua Minerale has got the capacity to carry more natural speed than Collado can do at the moment. Takes about 3 laps for some reason for the Ferrari to really find its natural pace.
Well, let's see whether that Porsche can do to the Ferrari what the Mercedes did a lap ago out of Variante Alta. There goes Marciello. Now Collado ahead of Campbell. They're all being caught again, incidentally, by Mathieu Vazivier. So look, it's now 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th and 9th as they flick through the chicane. This battle pack is building up all the time. Verviers doing purple sectors, pulling away still in the race lead. No, the answer, Matt Campbell can't find a way past Collado. Have a look at Christian Engelhardt's Porsche there, look, because he's on the back of the Mathieu Vazivier-driven Audi. So that's another place that could get changed. And Timothée Bure, who's been racing in the lower powered and lower aeroed GT4 cars this weekend, as well as in these GT3 machines, he is next in the queue in the Lexus.
Well, Engelhardt, of the two Porsches, actually right now is the more threatening. A little bit further behind, he's almost on the rear wing of Vivier and the Audi in 5th place. Coming down into Tamburello, will Engelhardt think about it? Well, he might have thought about it, but he wasn't able to execute it, so still status quo coming through the exit onto the straight that leads down into the Villeneuve curve that then ultimately leads into the principal overtaking area on this racetrack under normal circumstances is into Tosa, but you've got to be alongside the car. There are areas of choice in Tosa. You go cut back late or enter early. As we see, there is the exit, so the lead cars more or less following the line astern, and Matt Campbell making a break from Vivier in 5th place, so going with the Ferrari, and that gap coming across the line, well, it was 1.5 seconds between the lead Audi and the 2nd place Mercedes. So in spite of Raffaele Marciello getting the fastest sector time in Sector 2, the gap is still pretty much the same between 1st and 2nd.
So the lead gap 1.4 seconds. James Collado there is in 3rd place, chasing Raffaele Marciello, but really having to think about defending here from Matt Campbell. Everybody else flicks through the chicane. The next of the Ferraris you saw going through, Miguel Molina in 8th ahead of Marcus Winkelhock, and then Franck Pereira, who is in the best placed of the Lamborghinis at the moment. Dennis Lind, in last year's championship winning car, has done the absolute best first sector, but actually has gone back a place. He's in 18th, so of course you are going to gain on pit stops. You are also going to gain on the relative pace of your next driver against the relative pace of the next driver in a different car. So there's a lot that's going to shuffle around over the remaining 2.5 hours. On board with the Porsche.
Yeah, Matt Campbell in the perfect position as they come across start-finish line. He's gaining marginally. James Collado will stay on the inside on the entry into Tamburello, forcing Campbell to take the long way around. Campbell can do nothing about it. The Ferrari takes the real estate, denies Campbell any opportunity, but the message is loud and clear in the mirrors of the Ferrari. This Porsche in 3rd place wants to be a Porsche in 2nd place.
And James Collado, good laps put in qualifying. Of course, the grid based not on one flying lap from one driver, but the average of the 3 drivers across 3 elements of qualifying, so everybody's efforts counts for the grid, and you saw that the Ferrari has a good consistent lineup, which is why it was on row 1. But right now Collado is struggling for pace relative to the 2 ahead and relative to that queue of cars behind, and the danger is that if Campbell slips by, then the rest are going to follow. So James, understandably, is making this car as wide as he possibly can and using the Ferrari's advantage where he can around the Imola circuit, but Matt Campbell is just not dropping away.
No, the Porsche has got more natural pace currently, but James Collado has still got enough in the tank to enable him to place his car going into Tamburello. He stayed to the centre left of the racetrack, forcing Matt Campbell, if he thought about passing, to do it the long way round. But of course Ferrari and Porsche are pretty much equal on brakes, so Campbell wouldn't have the opportunity. So it's a lot of pressure for Collado, I think, driving my racing car. I'm doing 2 things. I'm looking ahead of me to where I'm going. I'm looking in my mirrors to see where is that pesky Porsche. Is it going to come through or not?
This is Campbell's view then, coming out of Ravazza. And now, nail your foot to the floor. Up goes the speed. He's up through the box. Let's ride with him, John.
So coming across start-finish line to go on to lap 14. Same situation we saw 1 lap ago. The back end of this straight into Tamburello. The Porsche just catches. This time Collado doesn't have to be defensive. He's able to take his natural line, staying in the right, cutting to the left. So he wasn't so insecure and feeling that the Porsche might be attacking me. Has my car begun to slowly come to life? Have I got the Porsche contained? Am I controlling this battle for 2nd place?
In the meantime, Vazivière is trying to keep at bay the Christian Engelhardt Porsche. There is Matt Campbell now, turning his way up the hill. Accelerating onto the run to Piratella. Vazivière actually has just fallen back ever so slightly, hasn't he? Possibly because he's a little bit busy defending from Engelhardt. Timothy Bure in the Lexus has dropped away by 3 or 4 lengths, so things just settling down perhaps a little bit. But the top 2, the leading gap, despite Marciello's efforts, the gap has gone up actually, 1.8 seconds now.
And I was just going to say that the gap was 1.2, so whether that was a little error, I suspect might have been a small error from the Mercedes, more than suddenly an extra 6/10 of a second from Fred Verviche in the lead Audi. But that's the seesaw that you're going to get. These cars are right on the edge of their performance, their tire grip, their brake performance. You make one little error, and that can account for 0.5 second of a drop in a lap time.
So here the field now, heading down towards Ravazza. Keep an eye to that leading Bentley as well. Jordan Pepper in 11th place. The Rover Porsche having a good scrap here. Dirk Werner with Dennis Lind alongside him. Dennis the Menace gets up the inside line, takes the place. That puts him 17th. Now you might think, wow, but actually that was a hard-won place.
Yeah, but that was a well-executed overtake. Dennis Lind got the run coming out of the very anti-alta, got alongside the Porsche before they got into the braking zone. Having achieved that, then there was nothing the Porsche could do and had to sit it out, wait for the Lamborghini to take his line. Porsche coming back again now, coming into Tamburello. So this battle is by no means over. Waiting to see who comes out of the Tamburello ahead of one another. Or has the Lamborghini disappeared too? Maybe it's gone through. No, it's still ahead. So Porsche wasn't able. It looked threatening coming into Tamburello. There it is, the 63.
So Dennis Lynn now sets off, does he not, in pursuit of Andrew Watson in the Garage 59 Aston Martin. Dirk Werner staying on his tail as well. Then you've got Maxi Buick in the yellow Mercedes next in that long line, and a Mercedes is in the gravel, and that's one of the ACA cars. It's 87, isn't it? The Jim Pla, Jean-Luc Bobelic, Fabien Barthez entry.
Again down to Ravazza, looks like he's been tagged. There it is, not tagged. It was well and truly clipped the right rear, and that spun the Mercedes around. Probably hadn't even got onto the brakes. You can see the right rear already was down. Car riding off the barriers and still continuing. The sand or the gravel here is relatively soft in spite of all the heavy rain that fell. Car comes to a standstill, so we'll no doubt go back to a full course yellow to get that. They're 74 also. Now, what is that? We didn't see any reason for the 74 to be in the pits. It's being rotated on the dollies going back into the garage, which is a great disappointment. This is the most colourful car on the field.
Yes.
And personally, sad to see it go into the garage.
A second full course yellow period then is called for because of Jean-Luc Bobelic being off the road, and the teams were expecting quite a few of these. Well, they weren't fearing for no reason, were they? So after the contact, Jean-Luc Bobelic's car off the road, the quick, experienced French businessman racer. And there is another car off, and that's one of the CMR Bentleys. It's 107 of Petru Umberescu, Pierre-Alexandre Jean and Seb Morris. It was Umberescu that started. And how did he get there? Let us have a look.
Coming out of Tosa, so he's probably booted it. There we go. Was the contact? That's why the Mercedes and the Bentley. We didn't see that in and that was a big hit on the right front of the Bentley.
Was it ever?
Now again, there's a tire barrier behind that. There's a big long strip of rubber binding that goes down in front of the. So now second full course yellow, and we haven't even had half an hour of this event underway.
Didn't we say something about full course yellows breed full course yellows? Well, contact then between Bentley and Mercedes at the same time that we were losing the Mercedes of Jean-Luc Bobelic. So out of the race is Razvan Urescu, ex-GT4 racer, and it was Raymond Vos and Tom Onslow Cole's car that was involved with it, and he's in the pit lane. Now, big shame that, because Raymond Vos, who started, has been getting better and better thanks to the tutelage of Tom Onslow Cole, ex-British touring car racer and one-make champion, and they have become a good combination, those two. But sadly, wrong place, wrong time.
I mean, that was to try and overtake a car going up the inside, coming down into Ravazza, the first part of the two-corner Ravazza, was never going to be a done deal, and making contact immediately just cut down the tyre on Jean-Luc Bobelic's Mercedes, and from there on he was a senior citizen passenger as he bounced across the gravel trap and finally came to a stop. Car probably travelling best part of 80 odd metres or so. The Bentley now in the process of being removed, so that car will also be a non-finisher.
So we're going to take a few laps to get everybody out of the way and to make sure that there's no barrier damage that needs attending to. Let's have another look at the start of the race then. It was Fred Vervisch in the Audi on pole position. Now the Mercedes there, look, from the outside of the grid, Mauro Engel trying to gain places. He goes around the outside of Matt Campbell, and there was, we understand, a bit of a rub between them. We might be able to see it from on board. This is looking back as the cars accelerate away. No, in fact, we're behind the incident zone here as we go down towards Tamburello. There is the Rodrigo Baptista Bentley that loses a spot. Jordan Pepper in number 9 hustles through all of that dust to the left-hand side. That was Mauro Engel getting back onto the circuit. And this is the view if you're in the body of the field. Chris Froggatt's Ferrari accelerates away. Accelerates towards Tamburello. And there's just a wall of cars ahead. The dust is kicked up, the Mercedes is in there somewhere. Car cuts the chicane on the inside. Rick Brokers in the blue and orange Audi just up ahead. Froggatt losing a place. Now there, look, is Matt Campbell trying to defend and squeezing Engel perhaps a little bit too far to the outside. Once the wheels are on the grass, Mauro is a passenger.
It's always difficult as a quick run down into Tamburello. 2 cars into Tamburello, you might get away with it, but it looked to me like there were 3 cars all very close together. There is a replay of the incident coming out of the Tosa. All of a sudden, just rode the curb, too much throttle, rotation, spin across the track and slammed into the tyre bale, and then the barrier behind. The barrier behind would appear to have been undamaged, but the tyre bale would have been split, and that was why it took a little time to get that returned to its correct condition. And now the second full course yellow due to the incident at this part of the racetrack, plus what we saw coming out of Tosa, 2 cars needing to be recovered from the circuit.
That's your Pro-Am leading car, the Ferrari from the AF Corsa stable under the Sky Tempesta Racing banner. Chris Froggatt, Jonathan Hui, Eddie Cheever the drivers. Froggatt the man behind the wheel at the moment, and that car heading up towards the timing line in the queue. And of course, with these different classes, it is class honour that they're after. 31st is where you find that car at the moment, but as I say, it's the category win that is of the greater concern. So under the full course yellow, we now know the form, at the end of which we can anticipate they'll all get scooped back up into a line. Really hard, if you've made the break, to have to do it time and time again.
I mean, for me, it's always been a frustration. You've done the hard yards, you've built your lead, consolidating that position, and then all of a sudden, full course yellow or a safety car intervention, which will normally and most likely follow after the full course yellow. I suppose you're the one that loses the most in some respects. Other people will see it an opportunity to make ground, and no doubt, as we saw after the end of the full course yellow, the original one, that in part, I think, contributed to Raffaele Marciello finding his way ahead of James Collado in the Ferrari. Marciello was able to get on it much more quickly than the Ferrari driver could do, and used that, particularly coming out of the Viriante Alta, the final chicane at the top of the circuit. Got alongside the Ferrari. They went side by side all the way round the right curve going into Ravazza, but the Ferrari was on the wrong part of the racetrack. Marciello had done what he needed to do, and he could just modulate on the brake pedal to keep the Ferrari always off track to the right-hand side.
I mean, that was a big hit into the concrete, wasn't it, for Umbrescu in the Bentley?
Yeah, he'll have a few bruises in the morning from the seat belts.
Absolutely. And this was Jean-Luc Bobelic. I was just trying to work out who it was that he cut across the front of, but it's not easy to identify that. But I'm afraid to say that with the punctured tyre and the car bouncing off the barrier and through the gravel, Bobelic, definitely a retirement. It's got a long way off the circuit.
That's what I mean. He must have gone 80-odd metres at least from the point when the car hit the gravel, came to a standstill.
Those two incidents, different parts of the circuit. If you were a steward, would you say racing accident, or would you want to have a look and see if there was one driver more at fault than the other?
The one into Ravazza, Bobelic was sort of in the middle of the road and offering up an opportunity. So the other, I think it was a Mercedes, in fact, just going down the inside for a corner that's going to go to the left, in this instance, was never going to be a great move. Whether you could say there was intent or not, I wouldn't say there was any intent. I would say it was down maybe to some degree inexperience.
So the full course yellow period continues, and we've been talking about James Collado's Ferrari in third place. Nicholas Nielsen, one of the drivers of that car. Time we heard from him, I think Gemma Scott has found him in the pit lane.
Nicholas, your qualifying pace seemed very strong, and it seems to be challenging in terms of race pace now. It's not seemed to be converting across.
Yeah, I mean, the race is still long. Seemed like we struggled a bit after the restart for the safety car, but you know, James is doing a fantastic job at the moment, and I think we'll try to keep it up.
Certainly 2 safety cars already bunching the field up, getting things back moving, hopefully again very quickly. Hopefully we'll get things moving again quickly, but second safety car already.
Yeah, it's a bit tricky, and you know, the field is all together, so it's going to be quite challenging for the pit stop round as well, but I think we will manage.
What stint are you going to be doing?
I'm going to be doing the second one.
The second one? Okay, we'll have a great stint. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well, not a huge amount of insight from Nicholas Nielsen. We would love to know, is the Ferrari a little bit slower in getting its tyre, particularly the tyre, rather than the brakes, up to racing temperature? It certainly looks like the energy that Raffaele Marciello was able to put into the Mercedes, both on the brake and to the tyre, to enable him to get on it that little bit more quickly. The Audi of Fred Vervies doesn't matter. He's had clear road. He's just gone. So whatever his issues are, they're a non-issue for that leading number 66 Audi.
So we stay under this second full course yellow period, which we expect will go safety car to bunch up everybody for the restart. The safety car board comes out, and yes, safety car is called. And look, the pace quickens now as everybody starts to close on the car ahead. There is the safety car. Of course, that now sets the pace that everybody else must adhere to. Once they're in a line, shouldn't be long before we can get things underway again. And Fred Vervish thinks, I've been here before.
Indeed, he's been here before, but you know, he's only got another 18 or so minutes before he's going to be back into the pit lane, changing out of his overalls. My day's job's done. I've done a perfect job.
Absolutely, I've led throughout, he will say, assuming he hangs on in there. And the point is, yes, that in 18 minutes we're at the hour mark and we can anticipate pit stops from that period. And it isn't, in fairness, the biggest pit lane. Nicholas Nielsen's just alluded to it. It's going to be really manic down there.
Tight is an under-description. It is a small-ish pit lane, although the entry is just on the exit of Ravazza 2 and the exit is sort of midway down to Tamburello. But it is, in relative terms, pit garage block is not designed to have a 46-car field all come in at one time and try to park up and do a tyre change, refuel and driver change. It needs a little bit of cooperation with your neighbours. On some occasions, what teams will do is say, look, we're going to come in, we're thinking of coming in a lap, whatever it is, 21 or 25. When are you going to come in? Can we not work together? Because it's in both our interests to cooperate rather than end up in a situation where cars can't get to their correct pit stop and then it just gets messy.
So safety car stays out. A question posed on Twitter, just going back to Dennis Lin's move that gave him 17th place. Of course, you've got to be in the top 10 in your class to score points. With the field so competitive and the quality of it, should we be more generous, giving points maybe to the top 15 or 20, or is the top 10 enough to reward those that are the most successful?
David, I come from an era when only the top 6 got points.
Indeed.
So look, let's man up on this. Stop trying to give this is not everybody gets a prize, because if you don't get a prize, you'll have a psychological issue. Man up. Top 6 get the points. The rest, do better next time.
There you go. That's the answer. If you have a thought, do join in. So, safety car bunches them all up. And there, Fred Vervish leads the way. If you, again, are new to GT racing, just a quick word about the numbers you're seeing that sometimes blink on the windscreen. They will flick between the driver's name in short code and the overall position of the car, so you can easily identify where that car is in the race. So if you see there, 0, 2, 3, 23rd position for the Mercedes in the hands of Alex Fontana. Right, now number 12 is in 4th place. Mathieu Jaminet will take that over. We're set to go racing, but let's hear from him with Gemma.
You seem to have incredible pace. You're all over the back of the Ferrari of James Collado.
Yeah, so far it's going well. We had a little contact at the start, but it seems everything fine with the car, and so far Matt is really putting pressure on the Ferrari. As we see, it's quite tricky to overtake around this place, but we seem to have good pace, and it's still a long race to go.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we are set to go racing at the end of this lap. Vervish has just got to hang on in there for another 15 minutes. Easier said than done, though.
Yeah, he's made it look relatively easy so far. Just looking at Mathieu Jaminet, very cool guy, a young Porsche driver of the future for the Porsche brand, standing in the pit lane in his civvies. So clearly he's not going to be the driver doing the driver change. He's going to be number 3 in the car. He's probably been out and had a very nice, relaxed early lunch, as you do in Italy.
Indeed so. Patrick Pilet, therefore, will do the middle stint. Fred Vervish backs them all up in the queue. Safety car in this time. So we're going to go racing, and look at Marciello. He is getting ever more toey. He wants at least one lap in the lead before he pits. Matt Campbell wants to get past James Collado's Ferrari. So who knows what's going to kick off at Tamburello.
Fred Vervish went a lot earlier at the initial safety car release. This time he's jammed them all up into Ravazza. The consequence is he's now got, I think, Raffaele Marciello probably closer to him. Matt Campbell for sure thinks he's going to have a pop down the inside into Tamburello. Look at Collado having to go left, right, back to the left again. He knew the danger from the Porsche.
And you can see what's going on behind Matt Campbell. Forget mirrors, you've got a little video screen there showing you what's going on. But already the top 2 has escaped. There, Vervish and Marciello, followed by a gap because Collado once more has to go defensive, and again he becomes that cork in the bottle.
And I think that Vervish made a strategic error in not going that little bit earlier as he did at the release from the first safety car intervention. What he's now got is Marciello much, much closer at any point in this race. So it's now under half a second as they climb up the hill, up into Peratella.
So, is the Audi going to break away from the Mercedes? 14 minutes to get you to the end of the hour, and then you can anticipate the pit stops. Here they come downhill again, the top two escaping, and the gap has widened. Vervish is on it.
Well, I tell you what, I don't know what the Audi does around the racetrack, but certainly in Piratello, that's the double left-hand corner at the top of the circuit. He gained maybe a few tenths of a second simply by being quicker than Raffaele Marciello, and to do that, you've got to be right on it.
Absolutely. Vervish, who had a spell in American single-seater racing, very much part of the Audi fabric, racing GT cars. He's raced for Audi in the WTCR. We're yellow again, and that's the reason, because there's a car stranded on the run down towards Ravazza. A wheel is off, we understand. It's the 23 Lamborghini, so full course yellow again. Giovanni Venturini at the wheel. And that was on the restart lap. He hasn't got into the race yet.
No, you can see the left rear wheel. So I don't know what went wrong. Maybe we'll get a review of that on one of the replays. But whatever it is, the race got underway. Oh. And, of course, this car, Venturini, never even got to go across start-finish line.
Wow. So it's on the lip of the circuit, so there was no way it could have carried on. Now, let's have a look, because this was at the tail end of the field. We're still under full course yellow conditions here. And there's, contact. That's why it looked. So
there's an Audi involved as well.
Cars left and right. There's the concertina effect. There goes the wheel on the right-hand side. Look, as you look at the monitor going down the hill, contact, and there's debris on the road as well. So actually, an accident effectively before they've got anywhere near a green flag, and you've got debris on the road. You've got a three-wheeled car to shift as well.
David, say it again. It's your favourite phrase. Safety cars.
Breed
David,
safety cars.
Thank you.
Well, I might say it again before the end of 3 hours, you know.
Unquestionably. Look at the debris in the circuit. I mean, there's a load of carbon fibre there. So an opportunity, was this a damage? Were they involved? We couldn't quite see, because we were getting the view from a car. We didn't get the forward view, so the 78 Lamborghini is in.
That is Frederick Schandorf to give way. That was the car that went off on the opening lap. I wrongly accused Rob Collard of going off on the opening lap for Barwell. It was the sister car, but that was the one, I think, that was the rallycross that Frederick Schandorf has given way.
Would this be a very strategic early pit stop? I mean, you're still just over 10 minutes to go before there's the wheels. The abandoned Lamborghini Venturini, other cars taking the opportunity likewise. So people are going off message in terms of when they're making their first pit stops.
Yeah, I think it's going to work out for the 65-minute stint maximum for the other drivers. It's going to be close, but by the time they've left the pit lane, you'll be closer to getting onto that 65 minutes. It'll be okay.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, are people anticipating quite a lot more safety car interventions or full course yellow interventions, and therefore they might, the way the maximum time a driver can do, avoid having to go back in again?
I think you're right, but by the time, for example, that Ferrari leaves, you'll be around 2 hours and 10 minutes to go. The maximum you can do is 65 minutes. 2 of those gets you to the 2 hours and 10 minutes. Anyway, a pit stop, just to make the point, it is not as quick as you can. It is 80 seconds, pit in line to pit out line. So this might be a bit marginal on the final few seconds for the 52 Ferrari, but it won't be far off, and they can recalculate that, especially if the pace is delayed by another full course yellow period. If, by the way, you get to the end of your stint and there is a safety car or a full course yellow, that 65 minutes is extended by a further 5 anyway, only if it's in that pit stop bracket, because your lap time is down and you can't, of course, go at the pace to get you back into the pit lane. So if at the end of your period the full course yellows or safety cars are there, that is extended by a further 5 minutes, that maximum stint time. But look at this is going to be a nightmare for some.
Yeah, and a lot of teams may well take the opportunity before the track goes green to do the very thing we've just seen the Ferrari and others do, and that's come in and go off message, come in slightly more early than you'd anticipate.
You want to be at pit out, don't you? You want to be that first garage before the exit line, so as soon as you accelerate, you just drive straight out and don't have to dodge past anybody.
Absolutely, but I mean, everybody in the pit lane is lining up as the Lamborghini is being craned away to safety. There was a load of debris just under the bridge. You just see where the cars are coming down through to the left of that image. There was a lot of debris. That's now been cleared up. So the field again running at this slow pace, 80 kilometers per hour, down into Ravazza. It's a downhill break into Ravazza. You've got to get your 2 inside wheels over the curb there, as you're seeing the 25 Audi do. And then the second of them, the exit out of the Ravazza duet of corners, you run the curb more on the outside. Just you have to be careful that if you drop a wheel off that curb on the exit, it could rotate you, and that's probably what happened to the Mercedes that ended up in there. There they go. Here, the thundering herd enters the pit lane. That's the midfield thundering herd too.
Anybody want to stay on the circuit? Anybody want to gain track position for a lap? Leader, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th. In they come. One or two have stayed out, if only because you're buying yourself clear space in the pit lane. So if it's going to be a long period like this, there they are. Buy yourself a lap. At least you're going to have a clear run in the pits. And number 3 Bentley is a lap down anyway. So the new race leader is the Gulf liveried Porsche, which is number 40, the Romain Dumas Louis Delatraz Thomas Preining entry.
Look at the congestion. I mean, it's one thing getting in, but how are you going to get out? Because the lock on these cars is restricted. You've got a big wheel and tyre. So there's a limit on how the Porsche 12, that was the Matt Campbell Porsche that was running directly behind James Calado. That's got rolling, so they've done a good job. That's going to put them back into a very strong position. Where's the Mercedes? There it is there. So it's just, so it's more or less status quo. In fact, the Audi that was running in 5th has gained a position ahead of the Porsche. So after Vivier handed that car over, who's taken over the Vivier Audi?
I'll check in a second when it breaks the timing beam on pit out, but it's going to be Kelvin van der Linde indeed who's behind the wheel of that. So these pit stops, fuel and tyres and driver change, that's what you're doing?
Is that the 72 Ferraris? A lot of cars have gained and a lot have lost.
Exactly. Now there's the Barwell Lamborghini look that had already pitted, but finds itself elbowed back down the queue as it comes across the line. So where in all of this is the 66 Audi?
Well, currently it's Ferrari 1-2 from what I can see.
So the notional leader is number 40, which is Romain Dumas, but that's because it hasn't pitted. So now we need to find where 66 Audi is, and there it is. Now what's gone wrong for the Attempto racing car? Because that has gone from the race lead to being way down the field.
That's an interview, I think, for our pit lane reporter to go and ask the hard question.
Either it was a problem and the car wouldn't restart, or it was just hemmed in and they couldn't get out.
I think it's more likely they had an issue with a wheel or a tyre or something. I don't think probably within restart, but whatever it is, does irrelevant. We will find out shortly. But all the good work that Fred Raviche did by leading from the lights going out up until he made that mandatory pit stop, all for nothing, and the start of the 51 Ferrari. Romain Dumas is still in the lead, Joe Osborne still in second place, but they've yet to make pit stops.
If you're wondering why that Audi is overtaking everybody, that is the safety car that has been scrambled. It now is working its way through the field. Don't forget that under full course yellow, the race cars must go at a fixed speed. Safety car can go quicker, so it overtakes everybody to go to find the race leader. Then it will switch the lights on, and then we'll be under safety car conditions.
The problem is, by the time he catches the race leader, they're going to be wanting to go into the pits.
Absolutely.
So then he's going to have to back off and effectively the race leader is the 51 Ferrari, just going through picture here. Second place is the Russian entry, the 72 Ferrari. And those two teams have done pretty impressive pit stops. The easiest place to pass at Imola seems to be in the pit lane.
Well, 72 Ferrari was nowhere, really, so that has really gained on the stops. In comes number 40. Ignore the Bentley because that lost laps early on, as we saw when it went into its garage. So that car, why it won't come in, I don't know, because it's in no man's land now. It's going to take ages for that to catch up if and when we go safety car.
Well, I suppose the reason is it might as well stay out until everything is... They should have come in fairness. So there's one of the Lamborghinis. I can't quite catch the number. That was the 63 or not.
But the big winner is 72 Ferrari at the moment.
Absolutely.
51 has gone into the lead, yes, but number 72 now with Sergei Sorokin at the wheel has vaulted up out of nowhere. And there is the safety car waiting to find
the red 51 Ferrari. So he's parked up. We hope he's not going to get a penalty for parking there.
Well, this all presupposes that James Calado does trip over the timing line before number 40 Porsche is released and therefore gets the lead on the road. He should do, so it should be okay. There is number 40.
So who would be in? Would it be Nielsen or Pierre Guidi? I think it might be Nielsen in the car.
I guess so, yeah. You put Pierre Guidi in at the end, wouldn't you? Because he's very, very quick. There's the safety car. Number 40 might get its lead, you know, because James Calado has not yet slotted in behind, and number 40 Porsche is on its way down the pit lane.
Here they come.
Right, is it going to be the Porsche? Can the Porsche be released, first of all, or are the pit lane lights going to go to red? That's the next question. We can't see where the car is in the pit lane.
No. It's not. It hasn't been. There it is now. So it's going to slot in. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you might try to get in between the Gulf Porsche and the Audi, or I don't know. It's interesting when you've had a pit stop, and can you just slot in when you find a slot, or have you got to wait until the chain goes through?
Number 40 has certainly been another winner on the pit stop. So we've got 51 now in the lead. It is Nicholas Nielsen confirmed. Then you've got there Sergei Sorokin. Third is Timo Boguslavski, who has taken over from Raffaele Marciello. And then you've got Patrick Pile, I think I'm right in saying, at the wheel of the number 12 Gulf livery GPX Extreme Porsche. But yes, I'm still more than mystified about the travails of Attempto Racing and Fred Verviche. We go safety car. We've had the first round of pit stops, and now the safety car scoops everybody up. So they'll all go into an order. The only problem now is that floating around Imola somewhere is that number 3 Bentley, which is crawling around. That's going to have to really catch up now, really press on to get onto the back of the queue.
Are they going to keep the safety car out until that car catches the end of the train, or are they going to say it's out of the equation? Well, yeah, give it a bar and let it go.
I'll keep you posted on that. So there is the safety car. Guy Claret, French GT racer, is the man behind the wheel of it, and he's earning his corn today because he's on a third stint already, and he's had to work quite hard to overtake everybody here to get to the race lead. So our third full course yellow into safety car period, and it is, just for the purposes of record, 20th place where you find Kim Louis Schramm in number 66 that led that first stint. Number 38th place they're going through was the number 108 Am Bentley of CMR. Just ahead is Ivan Jacoma, who's already had one race today because he was in the GT4 European Series race earlier on. And some of the teams on the team's messaging service asking number 108 to speed up a little bit because there are gaps opening up ahead of some of the AMs to quicker cars up the road. So some of the teams say, come on, can you please keep a long queue? We don't want gaps opening up because it's just compromising us. You can't overtake, of course, on the restart until you get to the timing line. So if you've got stuck, there you see where gaps are opening up. If you've got stuck behind a slower car, you lose even more time because you're still crawling to the timing line. Others are away and racing.
Yeah, just look down the top 6, top 10. Patrick Pile in the car driven by Matt Campbell. It's now in 6th place behind the number 31 Audi, Kelvin van der Linden. No easy pass, that one, I can assure you.
No, indeed so. Right, let's try and get to the bottom of all of this. Fred Verviche dominated his stint. The car's had big problems. Let's find out why. Gemma Scott is with Fred Verviche right now.
Fred, you did a fantastic stint there. What happened in the pit stop? 14 seconds slower than it should have been.
Yeah, there was an issue. I mean, we had free pit lane. We came in first, so parking. Everybody was fearing because it's so crowded to park difficultly and probably lose time. Everything was perfect. Still something went wrong. I'm not sure exactly what, and if I would know, we have to sort out. But I'm extremely disappointed. I mean, yeah.
Obviously, disappointment is going to be a huge thing for you, having driven such a great first stint. The car clearly has pace, or had pace at least. Do you still believe the car has the pace to get through and make up at least some positions now in this second stint?
Yeah, I mean, for sure we can make up position, but I don't know where we are, honestly.
20th.
Yeah, thank you. So,
sorry.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, maybe we can come up to P10, I don't know, but the thing is it's quite difficult to overtake here. So a really good result will stay out. But yeah, for sure you never know. We will keep on pushing. But like you say, the car is great. We have extremely good pace. So if you have a car like this, you have to finish it. And it looks like we will not do the job we should do today.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Fred.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Gemma. Fred not being terribly committal as to whether it was an issue with the car or an issue with the pit operation from the personnel. But either way, the time is lost. We're about to go racing once more. Let's just count them across the line, because it is going to be there. Nicholas Nielsen, who leads from his SMP Racing A and Corsa stablemate. Sergei Sorokin, Timo Bogoslavsky third. Louis Delatraz runs fourth then now in the Porsche after staying out a little bit longer before that stop. Fifth is Calvin van der Linde, sixth is Patrick Pilet's Porsche, then Dorian Boccolacci, Andy Suchek, Giacomo Altway and Vincent Abril. That is the top 10. Kim Louis Schramm, as you heard, after the dramas in that pit stop, was 20th. He's already gained a couple of places. He's 18th.
Yeah, fair enough. So the top three coming through. Bogolowski had to go a bit defensive because Louis Delatraz of the Porsche looked like he was going to make a move down the inside into Tamburello, but that got covered off by the Mercedes. So everything on this return to green flag racing. We're on lap 26. Status quo going into the Tosa Herpen, which we're looking at now. There is the car that did lead the 66 Audi all the way down. Currently in 18th position, will look to make up ground. That car was able to drive pretty much anywhere in the racetrack. Up the inside into Perrotella. Well done, good overtake, clean overtake by Kim Louis Schramm.
Graduate of the German Formula 4 Championship, came into GT racing last year from GT4 into GT3, and he's getting better and better all the time. This could be his stint of stints if he can drag that car kicking and screaming back into contention. And now, while everybody is tightly bunched, this is the time to get on with it and try and gain those places. So suddenly, from a car that didn't look that rapid in the first stint, it's now the leading car, and it's getting away because 51 Nicholas Nielsen drops downhill, still being chased by Sergei Sorokin, having his first GT outing, the former Williams Grand Prix racer. Number 9 Bentley, Andy Suchek at the wheel of it, drops downhill. There's number 32, which is another quick Audi. Charles Weerts is now at the wheel of that car, taking over from Christopher Mees, and Dries Van Thor will do the last stint. But the leading Ferraris come up towards the line, and there for the FFF racing team, the next pit stop cycles through.
So pit lane is empty other than the number 19 Lamborghini. That car went out of sync. That was Hiroshi Amagama. That's a Pro-Am entry. So they are looking at their category rather than overall results. Now Paul Kozlowski's trying to get on terms with Sergei Sorokin in the second place Ferrari, and he's got pressure from Delatraz behind. Kelvin van der Linde in the second of the Audi, the lead of the Audis right now. Patrick Pilet rounding out the top 6 in the Porsche.
The field funneling through Villeneuve, and a challenge for fourth place. Kelvin van der Linde gets up the inside of the Porsche, absolutely side by side through it, but the Porsche's got more get up and go coming out of the corner, and that means that Delatraz stays ahead of van der Linde. Pilet is next in the queue, but that was a really serious effort by Kelvin van der Linde, and he's not given up yet.
No, the Audis look very strong. We saw that for the 66 coming back. Now look at van der Linde all over the back of the Porsche. The difference between these two cars is one's got flat 6 torque, the other's got V10 top end power.
So Kelvin van der Linde, who has done many a mile in one of these Audi R8s, knows exactly what he's doing in these cars. Remember, Louis Delatraz making his series debut. He was always going to do some races this year. Plans have changed a little bit, but he's the SRO GT Esports champion. Brilliant on a sim. Now he's got to do it for real, and rather than think about winning, he's got to try and make that car as wide as possible as they drop downhill. So that's up the inside line goes van der Linde. Job done on the inside.
2 tons up from me. That was well executed. That was a brave move. There was no indication Delatraz was going to yield ground. He forced the situation, judged it perfectly, didn't lock up, didn't run wide. That's what a professional racing driver should do.
So now you're on board with Patrick Pilet, GPX Racing Porsche. Ahead, Louis Delatraz, GPX Racing Porsche. Is this going to be an easy pass, or is this going to be one of the hardest of Patrick Pilet's life?
Well, he's just got to be a little bit patient, but directly behind a car that is identical to the car that he's driving. So he may have a little momentum, having the Delatraz being slightly disturbed by the fact that van der Linde came through, and it was a very strong pass. It wasn't aggressive, just well thought out, but under real threat right now from Patrick Pilet. So he could find himself going from 5th down to 6th place in the space of this lap. The Audi behind looking also, you got Dorian Boccolacci also backing up behind Patrick Pilet in that 6th place.
So dropping downhill there, Andy Suchek on the back of the number 25 Dorian Boccolacci driven Audi. Dorian Boccolacci, another driver to shift from single-seaters into GT racing, and Andy Suchek, who has been a great ambassador for Bentley, be it in European or American GT racing, is right there on his tail. They come up now towards the Variante Alta, turning their way through that little chicane. Boccolacci actually on his toes here to get past Pile, and if that happens, then Soucek and Altway and Abril are all lined up to have a go as well.
Yeah, it's certainly clear that the Audis, for some reason, particularly on these restarts, look to be able to get on it that much harder than others around them, other brands. We're down into Ravazza once again. There's the 63 Lamborghini, the FFF Racing team. They started down the field way beyond where I would normally expect them, so they are currently Marco Mappelli behind the wheel in 12th position, looking to make it up to 11th with Charles Furts in the WRT Audi.
Race lead gap just over a second. Look back from Mappelli's car then. So he will do this middle stint. Andrea Caldarelli will do the closer. And here, Timo Bogoslavski is under attack for his third place from a charging Kelvin van der Linde. Look, having got himself up past the Porsches, he is away and gone, and he's caught Bogoslavski, who was a Sprint Cup outright race winner last year from the Silver Cup class, but now he's going to have to be really good on the defence.
Well, Kevin van der Linde made that great pass into Ravazza. He's having a look up the inside, can't get enough space to get on the throttle to give the drive up the hill, now up to Perentella, but Kelvin van der Linde, he goes left, he goes right, he's trying to distract Timo Bogoslavski in the Mercedes. Chance to go down the inside into Acqua Minerale, but he's not going to be close enough, to my view, going down into the braking zone. So he made that pass a couple of laps earlier, coming down into the first of the two Ravazzas. I suspect he's thinking about the same thing. Into the Variante Alta, again very narrow, that funnels down into a bottleneck, pulls back in behind the Mercedes. Thinks about doing his homework now. Get on it, Kevin. Now's your chance. Do what you did a couple of laps ago. Mercedes strong out of that chicane, mind you.
In 10th place is number 4 Mercedes Vincent Abril. It was the one, that car that Maro Engel went through the gravel with at the start of the race. It is being given a drive-through penalty for causing a collision, and the car that was involved was number 60, the McLaren of Martin Kodrich, Lewis Williamson and Ben Barnicoat. So number 4 Mercedes, currently 10th. There it is, the orange and black car. It's got a drive-through penalty. It will have to serve that next time around.
Yeah, that's going to be a hurtful, going off at the first chicane in the opening lap. Well, you lost a whole bunch of time, lost your track position, principally. Now that drive-through penalty, but you can add another 25-30 seconds to your race lap on that particular time. Look at this battle for third place. Bogoslavski really under pressure for Kelvin van der Linde. Takes no prisoners. Delighted to see it.
So there is Vincent Abril with this Damoclesian drive-through hanging over him, and of course with the field so tightly bunched at the moment, a drive-through penalty is going to cost him so many places I can't think of a number.
Probably take him 20 places minimum.
Yeah. Of course, if it's later when the gaps have opened up a little bit more, it does less harm. Now, we've already had one cork in bottle situation. Right now, Louis Delatraz has become a cork, hasn't he? Because he's got them all stacked up behind. The line of cars from 6th all the way back. Look at it, just keeps on going.
Well, Stunning and Sim.
Yes.
Bisorban Sim Racing dominated behind the wheel of his Porsche, maybe slightly different context. As we look at the 66 Audi trying to make up in 17th, made up one place. We saw that pass a little earlier. But that was massive disappointment. There we go. Kelvin van der Linde, again, strong into and out of, gets alongside the Mercedes. If he can maintain it as they go under the bridge, he'll be in the pound seat coming down in to the first of the Ravazzas. Bogoslavski trying to get his nose ahead, but has to concede. Two outstanding passes from Kelvin van der Linde at the same part of the racetrack.
He's done it, he's through, he's away, and he's gone. Kelvin van der Linde then now moves up into 3rd place. So can we have another Audi ahead when we get to the next cycle of pit stops, albeit from a different team? Van der Linde, part of the Audi factory squad then, hustles up to 3rd position. 4th, Bogoslavski. Pile is 5th. Delatraz, who of course also races in Formula 2, very different type of race car, going through next up. 6th he is. 7th, Boccolacci. Soucek 8th. 9th, Giacomo Altway's Lamborghini. Vincent Abril 10th. And staying out of that off the road, I'm afraid, is the Stuart Hall, Benji Goethe, Rick Broker's Audi. It's Stuart Hall at the wheel of it. Stuart doesn't do a huge amount of racing these days, but he doesn't often make mistakes, so he may have had a bit of help in that, but he's done a bit of damage to the car. But thankfully, Stuart brings it back towards the pit lane.
So up the hill on lap 31, Ferrari leads. Ferrari in 2nd place, Audi 3rd, and Nicholas Nielsen. And there it is going on the Ravazza, 2nd Ravazza. Was that a help or was that just a self-induced one? Didn't quite catch a looking down timing and scoring at the moment. That appeared. But it appears to me that Nicholas Nielsen, having secured the lead through the pit stop sequences, is able to actually drive away from second place Ferrari Sergei Sorokin.
There you've got Louis Delatraz with this long queue of cars behind him, coming down towards the Variante Alta. And it's just so hard, isn't it, to force a way through. The Bentley goes through, way out wide there. That's the Lewis Williamson car. Now, this is why the Fred Verviche pit stop was slow. Let's try and get to the bottom of it.
I tell you what, the car is too far out of the pit lane for a start off. Can they get... The guy is actually working outside of his design, so they had to push the car into the pit lane to ensure that the engineers could work on it, because that line of Imola written in it would have been a technical fault. So they had to push the car in. That's where the 15 or so seconds was lost.
So that answers that. It was the way the car came in, where it parked, having to swerve around the Porsche. Which isn't quite how Fred Verviche made it sound, was it? Anyway, the car is back in the race, and in fairness to Kim Louis Schramm, he is still doing his level best to bring it up the order. 60, there he is.
And he's right over the rear of the Porsche. So Julian out now is, well, he's got his mirrors full, but he's filling the mirrors of the Mercedes directly ahead of him anyway, so he's not going to concede anything. So Louis Schramm, if he's going to make a move, take a leaf out of Kelvin van der Linde's book and do what he's been doing.
Sharpen your elbows, stick them out. Well, Kim Louis Schramm, who drove for Phoenix last year, goes to Attempto. Kelvin van der Linde, who was at Attempto, goes to WRT. And both are drawing attention to themselves right now. And of course, one of the good things here for Schramm is that he's in this line of traffic. Not that many cars are escaping up the road because of Louis Delatraz being able to stack them all up behind. Down to Acqua Minerale they come. Have a look behind Kim Louis Schramm as well, because he has got Nikolai Sheargard in the Team Parker Racing Bentley out of the Silver Cup. Nikolai Sheargard, runner-up in British Formula 3 a couple of seasons ago. He was racing last week at Donington in the family's Shelby Daytona Cobra. Here he is in something completely different, and Nikolai Sheargard racing this car for the first time, doing a really good job.
Both make a nice thunderous noise.
That's right.
Down the hill into Ravazza. So there is the Porsche. Louis Delatraz, as you say, the cork and the bottle for all behind Dorian Boccolacci in the Audi. So I suppose Delatraz is running at the pace quick enough to maintain his position, but those behind can't get the momentum. The trouble is, you bottle yourself up behind a car, you lose your momentum, and you end up being controlled by, in this case, the Porsche in fifth place of Louis Delatraz.
So up into second, van der Linde. He's done it already. Look, caught Sorokin, passed him, waved him goodbye, and he is on a mission to catch up to Nicholas Nielsen. Now, in fairness, the two Ferrari drivers, good in their own right, but inexperienced relatively at this level of GT racing completely in the case of Sorokin, whereas Kelvin van der Linde knows about an Audi and he knows all about GT3.
We watched this car in qualifying, or practice and qualifying, and one of the drivers, or the next driver in the car, will be Mirko Bortolotti, the former Lamborghini star, and who looked pretty impressive in the Audi for the first time through the practice and qualifying. So that's going to be a strong car when we get into the final 1 hour of this 3-hour event at Imola.
So they're running up the curb, goes 72, which is Sergei Sorokin, so he's the man now in third spot.
I mean, David, right now, it looks like to me a one-car race, and that's the number.
Have a look at Boccolacci on the outside here. Ooh, didn't work, but he had a go.
Yeah, it's wrong. He was in the wrong part of the racetrack. Now the Bentley's got to move because of committing yourself to going down the wrong side of the track. You lost your exit speed. That's given the Bentley the opportunity to get up alongside. Andy Soucek didn't need to be invited twice. He's taken the position away from the Audi. Well, that released the Bentley now to have a look at trying to get past Delatraz and the Porsche.
Turning their way out of Ravazza, they're now up towards the timing line. So you've got van der Linde up to second. Pile is still in fifth spot, but it's all starting to shuffle around as you see the bottom end of the top 10. Andrew Watson in the Aston Martin also there, pulls out of the draft, tries to gain a place as they come by. So Pile is fifth, Delatraz sixth, Soucek seventh, Boccolacci down to eighth, Altway is still ninth, Witz is 10th, Mappelli up to 11th, Marco Mappelli 11th. Remember, in the car that Dennis Lind was 17th, 18th in that first stint, so that is chipping its way up the order.
This midfield bunch, you got the Aston Martin, Andrew Watson behind the wheel. He's doing a double stint because he started the race. It's only a two-driver car. So Garage 59, and, well, it's at the races.
Yeah. And the Lexus is still at the races, leading the Silver Cup. 12th overall, Aurelien Panis now, the son of Monaco Grand Prix winner Olivier Panis. You see the Lexus there in the queue, towering over the cars ahead of it, but that's leading the Silver Cup. And Andrew Watson's Aston is behind, second in Silver Cup. That's a good battle.
Yeah, but he also pulled out into fresh air from behind the Lexus. I wonder, is there something that's going on in the cockpit that Andrew is recognising, and he just wants to get that little gulp of slightly cooler air. It's still roughly 30 Celsius here in Imola right now. So running so close nose to tail, you're denying the engine the air cooling that it needs. You're denying the brakes the air cooling that they need as well.
So once more through the Variante Alta they come. Now the lead gap is only 1 second. So Kelvin van der Linde is almost there on the back of Nicholas Nielsen. Everywhere you look, there's a battle going on at the moment. Number 100 is Alessio Lorandi. Another convert from single-seaters to GT racing. There are the leaders coming up towards the line. Is this the lap they're about to start, on which Kelvin van der Linde goes for the race lead? A second was the margin. They break the timing beam, and it's down to 0.274 of a second. And van der Linde is going to have a go. Is he coming into the Tamburello chicane? Yes, he is. Through he goes.
He did. He made the switch back. He was on the right-hand side of the track. Collado went to cover that, and van der Linde dived down the inside, dived into the apex of the entry into Tamburello and took the lead away. Wow, I'd love to see that one again, and again, and again.
This is some stint, is it not, from van der Linde? He is driving fabulously.
Beautiful driving, really, really aggressive, but just, you know, the perfect way to attack and overtake. No contact, and also he put the Ferrari Nicholas Nielsen into a situation. He made the Ferrari respond. Being able to do that, when you can do that in a race car, you know you've got control.
So Kelvin van der Linde hits the front and he's getting away. Nicholas Nielsen doing a decent enough job, it's got to be said, of hanging on in there. Second place, I mean, that's not too shabby in this quality lineup. But Kelvin van der Linde is now the race leader as he goes over the brow, coming then from the approach to the Pelotella.
So
this is how he did it.
He goes to the right, Collado goes to the right to cover, then van der Linde switches back at the very last minute under brakes, goes down the inside. He's not Collado, it's Nicholas Nielsen. He's just out-psyched the Ferrari driver. I mean, that's beautiful to watch. I would do that every day of the week if I could.
With the spectacles on, just adjusting his mask, Vincent Voss, who is the team principal at WRT, which is the team for whom Kelvin van der Linde drives, and therefore the team which leads the race. As you see, Marco Mappelli, the reigning champion, coming into the second part of the Ravazza sequence. He's on the back of Charles Weir, who is another of those WRT drivers, and out wide bounces Alessio Lorandi. The bright yellow Mercedes getting in the way, a little bit of Julian Andlau. The Porsche comes up alongside as they storm past the pits, but van der Linde is already getting away from Nicholas Nielsen. He's hit the front and he's pulling clear.
This is very tight as they come down. Group of cars coming in. This has always got trouble written all over it. As you see, three cars almost side of finesse coming into the Tamburello. They managed to resolve and sort each other out.
Well, Andlauer has gone ahead of the yellow Mercedes, but so too, Lucas, Kim Lewis Schramm. So that puts him up into 15th place. I'm not suggesting they're going to get the lead back, but Schramm is doing a good job.
Yeah, I keep seeing the Aston Martin popping out of the line of cars. So clearly there is something going on with that particular car that Andrew Watson's having to manage as well as drive the race that he's doing.
So Andy Soucek in the best placed Bentley climbs the hill in 7th overall. They're going through Julian Andlauer, Kim Lewis Schramm behind him. And then you're going to see a little bit further back now Alessio Lorandi coming under attack from Nikolai Schiergaard in the blue Bentley that will drop there into view now coming down the hill. So 63 takes up attention for the moment. Marco Mappelli, 11th he is, 10th he wants to be. Charles Wirtz is the man ahead of him as they come now up towards the Variante Alta once more. But the Lamborghinis, whether it's been pace, whether it's been the BOP affecting it, they have just not looked all there this week, have they?
No, and the FFF racing team that's run by Andrea Caldarelli, Porsche right on the gearbox, coming down the hill, and this is going to be pressure, I suspect. There is on board the 63, this is the car driven by Marco Mappelli right now. Charles Wirtz, you see directly ahead in the Audi. Little dab of the brakes, he's correcting, not because he needed to slow down to take the corner, but he was going to overrun the cars that are directly ahead of him. So Charles Wirtz was doing that to avoid the back of the Emil Frey Lamborghini, and then the Dorian Boccolacci. So they're all having to react to what every car directly ahead of them is doing.
You're riding with Mappelli. Just a quick word about number 4 Mercedes. Remember, we talked about Vincent Abril and his drive-through penalty. He was in 10th place. He served the drive-through penalty, and he's gone from 10th to
37th.
Not far off, 34.
Oh, okay, good
stat.
guess.
Well done.
Good guess.
Give you a point for that,
Yeah,
John.
no, I haven't even got it on my timing and scoring page. So, I mean, that's a big penalty, and that's destroyed the race for the number 4 Mercedes. That's the HRT Hook Race Team entry. Great shame, great driver. Lucas Stoltz would have taken that car over for the final stint. Always potentially a winning car, not unfortunately here this afternoon.
And don't forget, Kelvin van der Linde leading the race, and they've yet to put into that car another gun driver, Mirko Bortolotti. Now, we know Mirko is quick. We've not yet seen him race one of these cars in World Challenge Europe, but from the pace he showed in qualifying and practice, he's going to be good. So that car looks even stronger for the next stint.
The other key to that car's performance will be, we know WRT are amongst the finest when it comes to rotating a car in a pit stop. The mistake that we saw Fred Verviers make, which was probably slightly compromised by those cars around him, but I wouldn't expect that mistake from Kelvin van der Linde and the WRT. They rehearse their pit stops, they rehearse scenarios, knowing it's going to be a very tight pit lane here in Imola.
Right, Souček all over the back here. Look of Delatraz. The Porsche hanging onto its position then, the GPX Racing 911 keeps the Bentley Continental GT3 at bay. Andy Souček, who has not raced here for many, many moons, and he was last here in the MSV iteration of Formula 2. Leaders go by, van der Linde, Nielsen, Sorokin, Boguslavski, then Pile and Delatraz. But the race-leading car, Kelvin van der Linde at the wheel of it. Next round of pit stops, we'll have Mirko Bortolotti installed behind the wheel, and Mirko is with Gemma Scott.
Mirko, your first season with Audi, how are you settling in?
So far so good. I mean, we started from 5th. Mathieu did a solid first stint, no mistakes. We had a good pit stop. It was really chaotic. The first pit stop, everybody came in, and now Kelvin is just having a mega stint, mega drive, getting us into the lead. So it's looking really good.
And you'll be doing the final stint?
Yes. I will be in the car. Yeah, of sure. I mean, looking forward to being in the car in half an hour. Still a longer race to go, but at the moment it's looking quite good. But it's still a long race to go, and in GT World Challenge, and it's never over until it's over.
Well, coming out of the Lamborghini into the Audi, what are the main differences?
I like the Audi a lot.
That's what we can give us. Okay, thank you.
Team player. Well done, Gemma. So Mirko Bortolotti then towed the party line, but equally he's very pleased, I think, to be with Audi and moving away from Lamborghini, yes, but if you can come away from Imola with a race win, that's the perfect start.
Well, that car has been pretty impressive all weekend. We picked it up in qualifying and practice. The car looked very strong in particular parts of the racetrack. Kelvin van der Linde in particular, because he's overtaken two cars, same part of the racetrack, has looked able to use all the pace, but fundamentally it's the balance and the grip that Audi, and I think some of the other Audis, the 66 cars, showed it as well in the opening phases of the race with Fred Verviers. They just lost it all in a rather, I have to say, sadly shoddy pit stop.
This is Mappelli's view, and he's still in 11th place. Boccolacci trying to come back at Souček here. Look, as Bentley fends off Audi. Behind them, another very impressive Lamborghini hustler, Giacomo Altue, whose family operates the Adria Raceway. As there you see, heading up the hill, Timo Boguslavski then keeping Patrick Pile at bay. The Porsche's not looking as quick as we might have hoped or expected here. They're, yes, running within that leading group, but they're not stand out on pace, are they?
No, they haven't. And I suspect what they're going to do is what they've done in the history of the company, all the way back to the early 50s when they ran as a factory team and as small engine endurance cars, beating up on the big engine, sports cars of the day, is they run metronomically. They run to a pace. Okay, you've got to be aware that there's people who are going to look to overtake you. But if you haven't got the out-and-out pace, then just play to your strengths. Don't try and do something which you haven't got control of. And right now, I mean, there's nothing very much that we can see Patrick Pile do with Timo Boguslavski in the Mercedes-Benz. Mercedes, such an easy car in general terms for any of the drivers to handle. It's probably the most user-friendly of the turnkey GT3 cars here this weekend.
We've got one car being looked at for speeding in the pit lane. It's the AM Bentley number 108, which is in midfield at the moment, as the leaders now have done 37 laps. We're on lap 38 as you ride here with Patrick Pile, another of the factory drivers within this race. He's part of the Porsche factory, driver roster and hustles on now, chasing after Timo Boguslavski, and he's almost close enough to think about having a go.
Yeah, but you know, the almost is the area where you get into trouble. You have to be clear. Either you get an opportunity, or, as we've seen with Van der Linde, you make those opportunities. And right now, Patrick Pilet hasn't been able to do anything to put any pressure on Boguslavski and the Mercedes. And you know, the Mercedes is, again, I think, the most user-friendly of all the GT3 cars that we see racing here this weekend. So for Boguslavski, it's not quite such the difficult task that it might be for Patrick Pilet.
Massive train of cars coming through Tosa. I mean, this is not only one long line, but effectively it's all one battle for position. If only somebody would make a tiny error and open the door, suddenly everybody would be released. But right now, it shows you how evenly matched they all are and how the BOP works.
Well, also, the race at this stage has gone the most laps before we've had any interventions, either full course yellow or a safety car. Just a little overtake coming up the hill. They put on Junior BMW, just losing a position, trying to come back down the hill. But on the outside into Aqua Minerale is never something that's going to work, so he has to back out of it.
It's Nick Yellerly at the wheel of the BMW, trying to find a way round. There's Sergei Afanasiev for Hubert Haupt's team in the Mercedes, and Benoit Moulin, it is, in the Lamborghini, making that car as wide as he can to fend off Nick Yellerly.
Yeah, Nick Yellerly, he got the pass done up at Piratella, then the Lamborghini looked to come back again, and there we are back down now into Ravazza. So gets close to the back. He had to pull away a little bit. I think he was in danger of almost running into the back of the Lamborghini at the critical entry point into Ravazza. So back into this battle that's taking place, and there's battles like this going on through the field. Here we are back with the battle for third place. Mercedes and Porsche, two Stuttgart manufacturers. You go to Stuttgart, you buy a bit of rock and it's got Mercedes-Benz in it, or you've got Porsche in it. You're a fan of one or the other of these two iconic Stuttgart-based brands.
The Russian driver Sergei Sorokin here, out of Tosa, in third place. Dropped away a little from Nicholas Nielsen. Fair play to Nicholas Nielsen for hanging on to second place. A good solid stint by him here, very definitely. Boguslavski keeping Pilet at bay, fourth and fifth. Delatraz is sixth, and everybody else is seventh, because the queue of cars, there it is a heck of a long one.
Yeah, and you don't want to be in that queue of cars, because everything is going to be a compromise. As we look at Marco Bappelli, as one of the drivers in that queue. So he's coming out of Piratella. Then the run down. It's an avenue of beautiful, beautiful tree. I mean, it's a park-like atmosphere, almost running into the back of up the hill now, coming through the exit of Aqua Minerale, the climb up into Virianti Alta, with the curves that are abused, and the damage to the floor of every car in this race. I mean, I don't know how insurance companies can bother insuring these teams any longer. The damage is just, I mean, you put a floor on, by the time you finish the race, there's nothing much left of it.
Right, we've got drive-through penalties flying around for speeding under full course yellow. One of them is going the way, and I'll just give you the driver in it at the moment, of the Team Parker Racing Nikolai Schiergaard Bentley. Another is heading to 55, the Alex Acker Audi. 78 for Barwell, the Kuyula McDowell Shandorf car. Number 60 is getting a drive-through. That's Martin Condrich, Lewis Williamson, Ben Barnicoat's McLaren. But number 66, Kim Louis Schramm's Audi, is getting a drive-through for speeding under the full course yellow. So another problem.
Oh my goodness. Just watching the Lexus almost got into position to make a pass on the Lamborghini. It looked like it was going to try and dive down the inside, take that 11th, or take the 12th into 11th, put the Lamborghini back. Marco Bappelli maybe had to be a little bit defensive, but the Lexus all over the back of the Lamborghini as they came across start-finish straight. So here on board with Marco Bappelli, looking forward to the back of Charles Wertz's Audi up the hill. The crest, then the plateau, then the turn. There's the first apex into Piratella. Run the car out wide. Be careful of track limits on the exit. There's the second apex. You almost ignore it, but it is there if you want to take it. Marco Bappelli, sorry,
more drive-throughs for more speeding. Nick Yellerly, Pro-Am class leader. Nicholas Nielsen, second place in the race. The 51 Ferrari, speeding under full course yellow. Now, bear in mind, we've had a number of full course yellow periods, so I can't specify which one it is and therefore which driver, but even so.
It could have been James Collado, it could have been Nicholas Nielsen. I don't know whether this group of drivers, we haven't had a safety car of full course yellow since the first hour's passed, have we?
No.
So there have been in the first hour, we had 2 of them.
They rejoined in one, if you remember, so that was still operational.
So that could have possibly, the overlap on that one,
could have just triggered that for the driver in the car now, but most likely it would have been the first driver, who of course had more full course yellow periods. But the point being, you've got to drive through, and it doesn't matter whether it was you or your co-driver, it's a team game, this, so if you're in the car where the penalty is applied, you've got to take the punishment.
So, drive-through penalty there was hit for 51 Ferrari, and that's painful. Having done a great job, that car initially, well, just running so well. James Collado now with Nicholas Nielsen behind the wheel.
And there's no escape from all of this because the data is there for the officials, and a second drive-through penalty for car number 60, Codrich, Williamson and Barnicoat for speeding under a full course yellow. So you definitely don't want to do 2 offences of that. That's going to ruin your day completely.
So there is that long chain of cars from 5th place all the way down to virtually, I suppose you might say, 18th place. Sergei Athanasiev in the HRT Mercedes.
HRT Haupt racing team in this context, as there the dynamic Porsche and the McLaren run side by side down the hill. Oliver Wilkinson just keeping Matteo Cairoli at bay. So Oliver Wilkinson, who's stepping up into this World Challenge Europe, doing a very good job of keeping former Porsche junior Matteo Cairoli, Carrera Cup Italy champion, at bay. And this brand spanking new McLaren keeps the 911 behind as they go over the curve at the Variante Alta.
I think we need to be aware that this is a 56-year-old design we're looking at. The McLaren is a 5-6-year-old design. I mean, this Porsche carries its own pension card.
But it can still deliver. It's an oldie but a goldie, isn't it?
To me, it's beyond gold.
Yeah. Well, right now, the best of the Porsches is 5th, the GPX car of Patrick Pilet. The dynamic Porsche, dynamic motorsport car, is in 17th. Matteo Cairoli is again, look, the long line falls over the timing beam.
So has the Lamborghini got enough legs this time coming down into Tamburello? The Lexus was on the outside. Will it be ahead when they come through? I think they went through side by side, in fact. So where the Lamborghini has, and the Lexus that lost out. So maybe being a little bit too keen to be defensive has caused you not to lose 1 position, but to lose 2. Aurelian Panis behind the wheel.
And it could be 3, and this is the Silver Cup lead you're looking at now. The Lexus just ahead of Andrew Watson in the Aston Martin, who's going to have a go on the outside line. Is he into Tosa? He wants to switch back, but up the inside line dives Alessio Lorandi in the yellow Mercedes. Now it's going to be a real grudge match up the hill. Who has got the torque? Who's got the grunt? The Aston Martin shows its heels to the Mercedes, and out of all of that, the Lexus hangs on in there. So Aurelian Panis still leads the Silver Cup, but Andrew Watson is determined to be ahead by the time he has to pit.
Yeah, and Andrew's been doing a double stint, so he's done a pretty impressive job. You know, coming up, it'll be 2 hours by the time he hands over the car for that final stint. So behind, he can't get any closer to the back of the Lexus. He was having to pull out of the airstream of other cars, still doing a little bit coming up the hill into Variante Alta.
Over the curve, Ollie Wilkinson at the back of this queue, and Andrew Watson just falls away a little bit because he's been busy trying to defend once more from Alessio Lorandi. But equally, Aurelian Panis, he lost a place to Julian Andlar, but he's still stuck in the traffic jam. He can't go anywhere for the moment. Up front, the lead gap is up to 8.3 seconds. Van der Linde to Nielsen. Nielsen's got to serve a drive-through anyway, so you're looking at very nearly 12 between first and third.
So, we've seen Calvin Van der Linde make 2 passes of the race to date. Why is that running out so wide coming through the middle part of the start-finish grid? The Aston Martin still will have dropped back from the tail of Aurelian Panis in the Lexus. Lamborghini, Marco Mappelli, he's done his job, but he's still got the attentions of the Porsche directly behind, so he cannot relax. But he's trying yet again to get into the top 10 to get ahead of the Audi. There it is, just out of a shot coming through the right of Villeneuve. Get on the tail of Charles Vetz.
So here they come to Tosa. Andrew Watson there on the attack as they turn through a left-hander on the climb up the hill now.
Is that 10 cylinders I'm listening to?
I think so. Look back at the Porsche. So Mappelli ahead of Julian Andlar, 11th and 12th. Drop down through the Acqua Minerale, use the curve on the outside, power up the hill. It's a circuit that keeps you working pretty much all the way around, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it was mentioned at the head of the programme that not only is keeping the engine, the temperatures at a level, it's hard on brakes. And all I can say is, had the circuit run on the last configuration when they held a Grand Prix here back in the mid-noughties, there would have been an extra big braking chicane just before the pit entry. Thankfully, that's been deleted. I mean, it wouldn't have been amazing to do a retro race here from, let's say, 1972, but with these cars, you come out of Ravazza, flat past the pits, flat out through Tamburello, flat out through the Villeneuve curve, and then a big break, be almost a mile flat out. Can't imagine what the speeds would be, lap time would be. Something to dream about for my generation.
Absolutely. Nicholas Nielsen, you see, tumbling down the graphic because he's just served the drive-through penalty for speeding under the full course yellow, or that car for speeding under the full course yellow. So the order shuffles again, but Van der Linde way out clear right now. Sirotkin will move up into second place. We're on lap 45. And he finds wood to touch. We are, for the moment, still running nicely under green flag conditions, even though we've had a couple of cars in strife. Stuart Hall amongst them. He is shown in 38th place, as there through is Andrew Watson, who actually has just dropped back a few lengths further, has he not, from Aurelien Panis in that Lexus?
I think, and hopefully when we get an interview with Andrew when he gets out of the car has had natural pace, but he's not been able to make it stick all the time. He hasn't been able to run close to the car that he's trying to make a pass on, and I suspect he's got an issue, whether it's engine or oil or maybe brakes, or maybe a combination of all three. But certainly something is, I think, preventing him from putting more and more pressure on Panis in the Lexus.
The other fascination is going to be what Andrea Caldarelli can do in the Orange One FFF Racing Team Lamborghini in the last stint. They're into the top 10 now because of Nielsen serving that drive-through penalty. And he's off the road, Mapelli way out wide, and is that going to cost him lots of places? Well, Julien Andlar gets up alongside.
Somehow he lost that. There it is, the 12 Porsche, which is in 5th place. Further down the field was Marco Mapelli in 11th, and there is Mapelli. And again, almost dipping. You see, he's got all of a sudden, what should I call him, in the Lexus. I think he's lost a position to the Porsche. He has lost a position to the Porsche.
Yeah, he went bouncing out wide as we saw for that onboard, but the Porsche has pounced, it's got through. And now, look, the Lexus is all over him like a cheap suit, because Aurelien Panis now in that grunt and go Lexus. He's trying to line up for a move down towards the Tamburello. There he is on the tail of Marco Mapelli. So this now is the fight for 11th and 12th places. Only just had Mapelli broken into the top 10 with a Ferrari serving its penalty, and he's out of the points again.
Thumbs up at the Variante Alta, I believe. I'd like to see it again, whether it was an issue or whether it was just something, an error on the part of Marco Mapelli. But anyway, he's lost that position to the Porsche. He's now got the attention of Aurelien Panis in the Lexus. The Lexus is mid-engine, front-engine GT car. Strong V6 turbo motor. Again, just the torque that you've got coming off a Herpon like Chosa up the hill. And a good balance in the Lexus.
So the cars then plunge downhill. Looking back here from Mapelli, and the Lexus then, which is still leading the Silver Cup right on its tail.
So here we go again, up to the hop, skip and a jump over the chicane at Variante Alta. I always look at pictures like that and think, it's pretty ugly. Oh my goodness, the McLaren went actually inside the apex as it took the exit. Now Lexus trying to make a pass on Mapelli. Didn't have the pace to go down the inside and backed out of it wisely, thinking, well, all I'm going to do is put myself into jeopardy on the outside of the Vatsa corner. Comes through the second part of Vatsa now. A little bit of the camera, it's a wide-angle camera looking backwards, so it slightly distorts the gap between the Lexus and the Lamborghini. So where are we? Here we come. There's the Lamborghini, there is the Lexus. Not close enough, and not going to be able to do anything about it this time on lap 45 into Tamburello. So just consolidates, takes his line, start the process of building up and trying to get your momentum back and try and put more pressure. Pressure may have been the cause of Mapelli making that error a couple of laps ago up at Variante Alta. We didn't get an image of it, there isn't one available. Nevertheless, maybe there's a fragility right now behind the wheel of the 63 Lamborghini.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because it's not doing what we've become used to seeing that car do.
1 year on, things move on.
Different circuit, it's new to the team, the car, but others are making the best of it.
Possible distraction, you never know.
Who knows? So the Silver Cup leading Lexus plunges downhill. Andy Soucek is still staring at the back of Louis Delatraz's Porsche. He cannot find a way by. He's defending from Dorian Boccolacci. So Soucek working oh so hard here.
Yeah, I mean, now look, he has a look down, forcing the Porsche to go defensive on the way up, but still enough ground for the Porsche to then make its position, get Patrick Pilet, Louis Delatraz, beg pardon. Again, Soucek comes back quicker out of Variante Alta, but not sufficiently quick, and he's on the outside coming down into Ravazza. Pilet just planks across the Porsche on the part of tarmac that the Bentley would like to have. Again, the momentum is lost, so Pilet is controlling these 4, 5, 6 cars directly behind. Slow in, quick out is the mantra that I'd expect Patrick Pilet to be playing out right now.
So Andy Soucek tries to find a way onto terms again with Louis Delatraz. Is he close enough to think about making a move? Charles Witt still hanging on to 10th place, keeping the WRT car in the mix. The leaders wriggle their way out of Tamburello once more. And Delatraz, adapting, of course, from single-seaters to GT cars, doing a good job. OK, car might not have the outright pace, but he's keeping it in the mix. And who knows if we have another intervention that brings everybody together. Louis, love your laugh.
Yeah, a lot of the Porsche philosophy is, the only thing that's important is taking the checkered flag. How you get there is somewhat irrelevant, but make sure you're in a position, as the laps are rolled, that you are in a position. Don't take chances, don't do things that are marginal. Let's look again at Aston Martin, and well, where is Delatraz? Where is the Lexus gone? Well, that's further down the field.
That's the Pro-Am.
Yeah, it's further down the field.
Yeah. Car. That is Chris Goodwin. Yeah. Now, when Nick Yellerly serves his drive-through, he has now done it. That becomes the Pro-Am leader. So it's just tripped over into the lead of the class. So Chris Goodwin takes over the lead of Pro-Am because of Nick Yellerly's drive-through for full course yellow speeding, as I explained a little while ago. So we've got a new class leader, the Aston here.
And things are only going to get better for that 188 Aston Martin, because Johnny Adam will be behind the wheel for the final stint. He is the pro driver in that Pro-Am lineup. As we now go back.
Now their look is 88 Mercedes, which is about to lose out to Patrick Pilet. Bogoslavski versus Pilet, who goes through. That was close. They almost run, but the Porsche has done it. Now can the Mercedes fight back? He's in the draft. The lights flashed at the back markers ahead as they go to Tamburello. The back markers get out of the way, and Patrick Pilet hangs on to the place.
And in a sense, the back markers played to the strength of Patrick Pilet. Bogoslavski was clearly, actually, that overtake took place just midway down pit lane. I thought he's swinging back, might have clipped the back of the Porsche, managed to avoid that. So Pilet was maybe fortunate, and then on the run into Tamburello there was another car back marker which gave Pilet the opportunity to lock down the entry into Tamburello.
So 88 Mercedes climbs the hill, but Bogoslavski then down one spot. That puts him 5th, and now it'll be interesting to see, having been released, whether Patrick Pilet can chip away and get onto terms with those ahead. So an hour and 16 minutes to go. In other words, in about 16 minutes' time, we can anticipate the next round of stops.
Everybody will be fully aware of what happened in the 66 Audi when it made its pit stop. It lost the lead and it's put itself pretty much out of contention. And it's not even showing, as far as I can see, on the top 19 in my timing and scoring.
No, indeed, but it's had a drive-through for speeding in the full course yellow, so it's got the back.
Okay.
So there is 12 Porsche Patrick Pilet. Let's ride with him in replay, John.
So on board, let's see what Patrick Pilet is going to do. It's the run out of the Variante Alta. The Mercedes dancing around as it ran the curves on the outside. Pilet can't get any closer. Where am I going? Left? Am I going to go right? Nope, the Mercedes is not making it easy, but he gets down the inside side. So no thing he can be done. So it's the undercut. So the Mercedes is compromised. Back end goes one way, goes the other way. Bogoslavski is rattled by the pace of the Porsche. Now up the inside, makes the cut. Bogoslavski is going to cut back behind the Porsche, almost clipped the left rear. So good pass by Patrick Pilet. Pressure from the Porsche behind. Also the traffic directly ahead came into play. Now Bogoslavski was able to come back, but because of the traffic coming into the entry into Tamburello, Pilet was going to be safe on that entry.
Good little battle going on here as well. Barwell Lamborghini but the car that it's squabbling with is really the race leader, so he's going to have to let Kelvin van der Linde go, and he does indeed, up towards the Variante Alta now.
Kelvin van der Linde's style now, he's gone more into a fluid style, the rhythm that he's developed now. He's got the lead of this race, he's able to drive at his pace, effectively use the racetrack as it suits him, so he's had to go out of attack mode into, it's not a cruise mode, but it's not dissimilar to cruising.
So there is the race leader coming through. So Kelvin van der Linde goes over the timing line. Makes the run down to the Tamburello once more. We've got more drivers being given penalties. In fact, 93 Ferrari though has just served its drive-through for speeding. You see it rejoin. Another one is number 163, the Emil Frey car, Giacomo Altway, who was running in the top 10. 488 Pierre Eret's car that he shares with Rino Mastronardi, Daniel Kalvitz. That's had a speeding pit lane offence, and so also is 555 Florian Latour, Roland Baptiste and Andrea Amici. So yet more and more are suffering because of the full course yellow speeding offences. Meantime, race leaders have done 50 laps. Sergei Sorokin there running in second place, 16 seconds adrift of the race leader.
So all of a sudden we're seeing the field spreading out a little bit more than we've seen for the large part of this race up the hill. And there is the third place Porsche and Mercedes following up the hill.
So we're about 13 minutes away from the next round of pit stops. And you're looking at the car in third place right now, number 12. So Patrick Pilet, his last lap slower than the Ferrari ahead, but he's had to get himself through some traffic, of course. So let's see whether now with clear real estate ahead he's going to be able to press on. Whereas the opposite situation for Louis Delatraz in the sister car. Look at that queue behind him.
I mean, that's not a nightmare. I mean, that's motor racing for you. But I mean, you've got such a long snake following behind you. You're under pressure. Andy Soucek needs the charge, but followed very closely by Bacalacci and the Audi. He's looking to go one way, the Bentley the other way, and the rest of the field are just picking up what's left. I mean, there's no tarmac available, no real estate in this racetrack that isn't covered by a race car.
Over the brow comes Delatraz, ready to drop down towards Ravazza. Andy Soucek right there in his tail. Boccolacci breaks late, doesn't he, in the Audi? Altway is next in the queue in that blue and white Lamborghini, but that's a car with a drive-through to serve.
I mean, there's nowhere to go. You just got to be patient. There's the car diving off into the pit lane to serve that penalty. So everybody just don't let your emotion overcome your judgment behind the wheel, because if you do, as the Porsche going marginally defensive, coming into the general zone of Tamburello, and Bentley still unable to do anything with Pilet in the Porsche.
Out of the Tamburello they come then. They're further back, the bright yellow Alessio Lorandi driven Mercedes. And how is the Silver Cup doing? Well, the Lexus now has got quite a bit of traffic, has it not, between itself and the Aston Martin of Andrew Watson. And there's Soucek having another look on the inside of Delatraz. I mean, Andy has done a very good job in terms of trying to get past. He's done a very good job in terms of keeping traffic behind, but he just can't find a way past Delatraz, who equally has not put a wheel wrong.
No, and what Delatraz is doing is just trying to not make an error, trying not to allow the force of pressure coming from behind, with Soucek leading that charge, to get inside your brain. So maybe just almost turn your mirrors away, forget about who's behind you, just make sure you leave a gap, cover every bit of the racetrack that you can do. That would be an opportunity for the Bentley to make a move. Look, Andy Soucek moves to the right coming up the hill. Boccolacci does the same thing. But this is not really a place you can overtake into. You get the job done on the exit, so make sure your exit's strong rather than trying to make the pass entering into the chicane.
So downhill they will drop towards Ravazza. Van der Linde still leading on the road as Boccolacci comes under attack. Charles Weerts thinks about the inside line. Same type of car, different teams operating them. Santalok, the team with the Boccolacci entry, WRT running Charles Weerts' car. Indeed, Charles is the son of one of the founders of WRT, so it's kind of the home team for him as the leaders now come up towards the line with an hour and 10 on the clock still.
Yeah, Weerts was, I mean, I don't think he was looking seriously at making a pass. Again, just to try and act as a distraction to force a mistake. As you go back to Delatraz, Porsche. Soucek in the Bentley, and then Boccolacci, and the rest. And Andrew Watson still in that mix. He lost a position to the Silver Cup challenger, which is the Lexus, but still in the race, still in this group of cars.
So out of Tamburello they come, and through Villeneuve. So you're looking at Alessio Lorandi in that bright yellow Mercedes. They're being caught just a little now by the McLaren, which is next in the queue. That's the car that Oliver Wilkinson is doing the stint in. And now coming down to Piratella once more. But Louis Delatraz, as I keep saying, doing everything right. Now, he's defended well. I suppose if you were K-Pax, you might say he was blocking the Bentley, but to my eyes, he's just defending resolutely.
And he's not being aggressive. What he's doing is just making sure that he always has got his car on the bit of the racetrack that somebody who's going to challenge you would like to make use of. He's not doing anything that I would call, unfair or sometimes described as maybe driving in a dirty manner. He's just using the strengths the Porsche has, and Bentley's got its own strengths, but Andy Soucek hasn't got quite the pace. Down the inside this time, well, there it is. Can he get it done? Charles Verts, he doesn't need to tag the Audi. He might compromise himself or compromise. Well, the Porsche directly behind is going to be in a position also now to come up alongside Dorian Boccolacci, and that's maybe one position lost to Charles Verts, could be a second position lost to the Porsche.
Let's see, over the timing line there goes Delatraz. Soucek is behind him. Charles Wirtz then up into 7th place, and for 8th, Julian Andlau gets up on the inside line. Is that going to pay out for him? He's going to go through, is he? No, Boccolacci fends him off, so the Audi is just ahead, but he's running wide for the middle part of the Tamburello.
I bet you Boccolacci must be absolutely fuming with Charles Verts. Why do you have to pass me? Now you've created a gap. We've both lost ground to the back of the garbage involved in this battle. So anyway, that's motor racing, guys.
Well, it is, but Wirtz instantly gets up onto the back pretty much of the traffic ahead. So Andy Soucek, who's attacking Delatraz perhaps more vigorously than ever, might be caught by Wirtz in a moment, but finally, because he's not having to defend too much, Soucek can attack, but he's on the outside line into Piratella. Does he go through there? No, he doesn't, and here comes Charles Wirtz. Soucek is still attacking all the way around the outside. If he stands his ground, he'll have the inside for the Acqua Minerale. Fantastic! Andy Soucek has done it after about half an hour plus of trying.
And Charles Verts are very close. The Pennis goes way wide on the exit Acqua Minerale. Charles Verts now also fancies a way of getting past the Porsche up the hill. What Soucek did was work that one corner of the Piratella all the way down into Acqua Minerale. Good driving yet again. Good racing between those two cars.
Absolutely. And it shows that you might think, well, they're just running in a long line. All of these drivers are on the attack all the time, and the opportunity presents, and bam, because they're pros, they take it. Now, Charles Wirtz is going to try and do the same thing. Look, see how the Bentley has gone. Just disappeared up the road. He's checked out. Soucek is gone. Delatraz now, still the cork in the bottle, has got Wirtz. He's got Boccolacci et al. All behind him as they come to the line. Julian Andlau next in the queue, and there into the pit lane is the Ferrari number 52, so that will now be Louis Machiels giving way to Andrea Bertolini. Remember, that was one of the earlier ones in. And there to the outside, Boccolacci tries to come back at Charles Wirtz, as well as keeping Andlau behind him. This could all turn ugly any moment, couldn't it?
Well, I mean, it's very intense. I mean, right now, we've seen that Verts got past Boccolacci, but maybe he needed not to be so relaxed with the thinking about what I'm going to do with the Porsche, because Boccolacci has no intention whatsoever letting the teenager put a move on him like that.
But we're not done yet. Wirtz, Boccolacci, Andlau, Mapelli, Panis and Lorandi as one. Then you've got Wilkinson, and behind it is Andrew Watson, because Oliver Wilkinson in the McLaren has just got past the Aston Martin, so Watson's lost a place, John.
Yes, and I suspect Andrew Watson's been carrying some kind of wound. I don't know what it would be, but he's not been able to attack in the manner that the car's natural pace, if it wasn't running, he's got so much traffic around him, that's just probably the limits of what the car's capacity is.
So looking back as the cars crest the rise, the Marco Mapelli driven Lamborghini you were with, just looking back at the Lexus as the cars flick over the curbs at Variante Alta. Again, I'm looking at the clock because we're about to enter the final third of the race, not far off. We've got the final round of pit stops looming as well. We have already seen that things can go wrong in the pits. Of course, it's that delta time of 80 seconds, when if you're under that, there's a penalty. Nobody seems to have transgressed within the first stop, probably because you couldn't undercut the time because it was so busy in there, you're all being delayed, but it can happen. And there, we have the stops starting to come. Both the Silver Cup leaders are in.
I'm going to say it's Porsche already, and so that's, an early-ish stop for what would have been the leading Porsche.
And the leader is in as well. Look, Van der Linde to give way to Bortolotti, and the stop is served, and they're away.
Yeah, a great stop by WRT. They got that car in, got a service, get it back out again, and he's gained massively. I mean, when this all washes through by the time we get into the final and the third hour, I mean, the Mercedes, look, it's still up in its axle stands.
Yeah, exactly. So Sorokin takes over the lead of the race. Delatraz is staying out there. Patrick Pilet we'd seen go in. So there, Mirko Bortolotti in the car that was leading, back on track.
I'll tell you what, Mirko Bortolotti, in theory, as long as we don't see any further full course yellows or safety car interventions, it's his race to lose, because he's going to end up with a pretty substantial amount of space between him and second place car. We're yet to see what that second place car may be. But what a great turnaround by the WRT team to get that car in and out. Kelvin van der Linde, the star so far this afternoon, and there's still chance for others to shine.
Right, look, the Santalok Audi has dropped behind the yellow Mercedes there, so Marcus Winkelhock's car rejoining the race but has lost ground. In comes Barwell, Tempesta, AF Corsa, and the AF Engineering McLaren. So the pit lane getting as busier lap after lap.
Yeah, not quite as frantic as it was when they all came in for the end of the first hour stop, but nevertheless, not a huge amount of space for these teams to work. They've got to get the car squared up. Not only it needs to be square, but the air lines have got to be able to reach the far corners, the left front, the left rear of these cars. And they're getting up, the Sky Ferrari just almost on the curve of the pit lane.
Yeah, the main difference, of course, is that the race is still under green conditions, whereas we had the full course yellow at the end of that first hour, so everyone dived for the pit lane then. But Mirko Bortolotti then leads the way and has a comfortable gap, I would offer you, over the next best stopper as he comes up towards the line. So on the road, Sergei Sorokin is leading, except he's now pitted. There he is, and Andy Soucek has brought the Bentley in to give way to Alvaro Parent for the last part of the race. Bortolotti goes by. Number 3 Bentley looking quick, but of course delayed early on, so running in, I'm afraid, the 40s in terms of a race place.
I've been looking at that release. That was just on the limit of what would be an unsafe release, but no contact, so probably things were allowed. There's the Ferrari 72. What's wrong with that?
They're getting it out of the way, aren't they? So the hose wouldn't reach, maybe.
I mean, that's, again, because that's on what I would call the curve of the pit lane. The pit lane isn't entirely straight. They're at the far end of the pit lane, and when the car was brought in, clearly it wasn't sufficiently far to the right to enable the refueling and the breather hose. There's a fueling on the right. That engineer on the left is holding the breather to ensure that all the air and fuel, when it goes in, the fuel goes in, the air escapes.
So another delay, and we've seen this in the past, haven't we, from Ferrari teams, from AF Corsa and from Kessel when they have been in the championship, whereas WRT then leads the way. Mirko Bortolotti out on track, clearing the race lead. Will identify second when the next round of stops has all been done, because the car behind the Bentley is a lap down, at least one lap down. But Bortolotti storming on with 61 minutes of the race to go now.
Well, you've always got the thought of the commentator's curse, but when Mirko Bortolotti made the move from Lamborghini to Audi, I don't know whether he imagined, there is the Ferrari rolling finally, but a long time in the pit lane, that he would be right now leading this race with just an hour to go. Whoa, that was that contact between the Lamborghini and was it the Porsche and the Lexus or not? As the Ferrari, the 72 Ferrari, just almost gets compromised with the Porsche bounced back on to the circuit.
Andrea Rizzoli in the Porsche, it was that went across the gravel. Now there, look, is Davide Rigon, who has lost the best part of a lap to Mirko Bortolotti. Let's have a look at this incident again.
Yeah, there was contact. I thought there might have been just the right front and left rear. And that could be a penalty, because that was an incident that would have been avoidable, and the stewards will look at it, whether they'd give it a time penalty or something more severe. I'd have a look and see, but those are the kind of sort of small incidents that have big consequences. But the Lexus has made a strong stuff, but I think maybe the right front bodywork has been compromised. Look at the right front of the Lexus and have a look and see.
She might be right about that, where the contact came. Number 60 McLaren also, the Barnicoat, Williamson and Kodrich car is being given a penalty, a drive-through for causing a collision. And there is 108, the AM category leading Bentley. It's the car that was started by Bernard Delhay, and he shares this with Romano Ricci and the rapid Stefan Tribodini. So Mirko Bortolotti it is, who now leads from number 12 Porsche of Mathieu Jaminet by 25 seconds. So Jaminet has got work to do, but safety car period could very definitely bring him back into the mix. We'll wait and see what pans out from all of this. Felipe Fraga is up into third in 88 Mercedes, and Dries van Toor fourth, number 32. That's the Audi that he's just taken over from Charles Weerts. Fifth is Klaus Bachler in the Rover Racing Porsche, and sixth is Ricardo Feller for Emil Frey Racing in the Lamborghini. Eighth, there you see, is now Christopher Haase, who's taken over the Santalok Audi. I hesitate because I thought I'd seen a smoky Mercedes come into view. Yes, it had. It was Finlay Hutchinson's Haupt car, I think, that was just slightly smoky there. And 13th is the Mattia Drudi Attempto Audi that led the bulk of the first stint. Now that's Finlay Hutchinson's Mercedes. That was the one I thought was looking a bit smoky.
It is smoky,
yes, it is smoky.
Left rear. So that's bodywork rubbing, or whether it's something more serious. But I suspect it might be a bodywork rub on that left rear, and that's not going to be very good for that left rear wheel tire combination. It comes down the hill into Tamburello, so you can just see, oh, it is. In fact, it's coming from the right front as well. So there's something wrong with that car, and I don't know whether that's visual from the cockpit, but carrying on, clearly not concerned. Well, maybe what we're seeing is a leak, a fluid leak getting onto the exhaust system, because it doesn't appear to have any differential effect on the car's handling.
63, the Caldarelli Lamborghini is out of the race with suspension problem. Ooh, not, I'm afraid to say, a good start to the title defence, but number 63 Lamborghini is out, and Mirko Bortolotti is 24.7 seconds ahead of Mathieu Jaminet, who is pounding on, doing his level best to bring down that gap. So the race currently on lap number 59, and off the road is Finlay Hutchison.
Yeah, now that I think is a mechanical failure rather than a tyre rub, because the car is very, very smoky indeed.
He'll only just have got into that, won't he, on that recent round of pit stops?
Most likely, yeah. So we don't know what the problem is, but the car stopped on the racetrack, and that's out of the event. As we go back to this midfield battle, 57 minutes of the race. Where's the last 2 hours gone?
Absolutely. It's flown by. Just having a look to see whether Mathieu Jaminet in second place is being able to catch Mirko Bortolotti for the race lead. The lap times are up and down, but when the traffic permits, he's fractionally faster.
Yeah, but it's 23 seconds behind.
Yeah. So
that's a long time to go. He's going to find at roughly half a second a lap in the remaining 56 minutes of this race. So, I mean, if he can do that, that'll be outstanding drive by Jaminet. But, oh, look at down the inside. And there's the undercut. That's what happens. You dive down the inside. And the car, the Ferrari, that was at the front of the field in the early stages of the race, has now just made a fundamental, I would say, misjudgment.
So that was Alessandro Pierguidi versus Valentin Asclot, and race leaders come by. So you've got 188, Johnny Adam, but he's the Pro-Am leader, but there is 159 that you're looking at, and that is Valentin Asclot. So that is the silver leader at the moment. Ignore Johnny Adam for the second, because he's in the 188 Aston in 20th place, and the car behind is Alessandro Pierguidi.
Well, it's not like Alessandro Pierguidi to make an error like that, trying to pass a Silver Cup car. He would know that this is not in his race, but he's gone up the inside. Adam has this time actually allowed a car which is battling for overall victory, as opposed to battling just for class win and overall victory. So Adam just lets the Ferrari go, falls in behind, and consolidates his position without doing anything to and physically damaged. There's the 188.
So the last lap done by Mirko Bortolotti was a 43.3, and we're waiting for the equivalent lap of Mathieu Jaminet to come up. There is Johnny Adam, who is the class-leading Pro-Am, and he is coming up now over the brow of the hill through the Perrotella. So Johnny Adam is in 19th place. It means that Silver and Pro-Am both now with an Aston Martin heading them. So you put the real gun driver into these cars and up the order they come. So Johnny Adam leading Silver and Valentin Asclot leading in that Silver Cup. There is Johnny Adam going into the Variante Alta. So we're into the final hour of the race, 54 minutes on the clock. The lead gap 23.9 seconds. Last time around quicker was Bortolotti. So it needs big problems for the Audi to bring the Porsche of Mathieu Jaminet truly into the game.
Yeah, I mean, all Bortolotti's got to do is run at the pace of Mathieu Jaminet. That's all he can do. Now, the thing that he can't control, and that will be his single concern, will be if there's another situation where we need a full course yellow. That will then bring the Porsche right back into the event. And Bortolotti, who's just driving to the pace of the rest of the field, may have to then get back up on his toes to defend the lead.
Absolutely right. With Felipe Fraga in third place, he's going to be worth keeping an eye to as well to see whether he gets closer to Jaminet. In fourth place, it is Dries Van Thor, still storming along. In fifth place, Klaus Bachler's Porsche, and sixth, there is Fabian Schiller with Alvaro Perret behind him. So here is the battle for sixth position, Mercedes versus Bentley. With all due deference to Fabian Schiller, ex-Formula 3 racer, Alvaro Perret's CV speaks for itself in GT terms. You'd anticipate that Bentley to be up past relatively soon.
Yep, but you know, the Mercedes, great car. Schiller has he's had a couple of good performances last year, but as you point out, Alvaro Perret, GT3 written through him and looking to dive down the inside, but way far too back. But again, just plant the Bentley in the near side mirror of the Mercedes. Make Schiller start to look sideways, look backwards, not look forward. Get into the driver's head. Make him uncomfortable. Beat him up. Be a bully. You know, this is not about, you know, everybody, as I say, gets a prize. It's a motor race.
Absolutely. And Fabian Schiller knows he's in one right now, because that car is going to have to be very wide indeed. Down towards Tamburello they come. Ahead of them, look, is Klaus Bachler in the Rover Porsche, the Rover Racing entry. So fifth, Bachler, sixth, Schiller, seventh, Perret. And behind them in eighth place, Christopher Haase, as Alvaro Perret has a look at the inside, trying to, all the while, distract Fabian Schiller, trying to force that error out of the Mercedes ahead.
Schiller's not reacted to it particularly, but Alvaro's maybe not really got down and dirty. And with, 52 minutes remaining, still got plenty of time. There'll still be opportunities will arise. We've got to have back markers will come into play at some point. Wrong part of the racetrack for Schiller or wrong part of the racetrack for Perret. It can just change the dynamic right now in this battle that's going on between the Bentley and the Mercedes.
Down through the Acqua Minerale they come, and because Schiller is delaying Perret, not only is Bachler getting away, but Haase is getting closer, is he not, in the white and yellow Audi. The Sansalot car there is almost on the back of the K-Pax Racing Bentley.
Yeah, for Christopher Haase, the easy job is catching. The trickier job is going to be, I've not just got to find a way past one car, I've got two cars that are in an inter-car battle. And look, I mean, Alvaro Perret again trying to use the pace down the hill. Oh, Alvaro, what are you doing? Unnecessary. It was never going to be a pass. It was inevitable there was going to be a collision. It was Schiller's corner, and you've just completely bleeped it up.
And so Fabian Schiller is in the gravel. That will go down like a cup of cold sick with the race officials. So Perret, you can expect, is going to have something to redress the balance applied his way. And also Christopher Haase is on his tail, about to try to find a way by down towards Tamburello. Well, he's caught the Bentley, which of course delayed itself within that contact, but that's not like Alvaro Perret.
Well, you can understand he's getting frustrated. That was an opportunity, but the reality was it was only an opportunity in Alvaro's mind. It was never going to be a pass. You can't expect to pass a car when you're barely on the rear wheel of it. You've got to be absolutely wheel square before you can think you've got the corner.
So clear road ahead, but because Perret is having to defend the place, he's not escaping at all. Haase is right there behind him, and Christopher Haase, who is a hugely experienced driver of Audis, Endurance Cup champion, Nürburgring 24 winner, Spa 24 winner, you name it, Australian GT, he's been there, done it, won it. Christopher Haase all over the back of Alvaro Perret. If anybody knows an Audi R8 inside out, Christopher H is your man.
And right now, if you look at the qualifying, you look at the race, you have to say that the Audis in general, class of the field.
We're going to go full course yellow, I understand, from race control. So as over the curb clatters
Wow.
Alvaro Parent.
I mean, oh, here we are.
Of course, yellow.
Well, I mean, Alvaro went not over the curb. He didn't even make the apex. Let's look again and see. It's on the inside. No, well, there's no chance. I mean, actually, Parent couldn't slow the car down. He wasn't even anywhere near the car. It didn't have the capacity to slow down.
So Schiller is in the gravel still, hence full course yellow to try and get him out. And Fabian Schiller did not deserve to be there. He did nothing wrong in that.
Absolutely nothing wrong whatsoever. It was almost a Parent pushing the brake. These have got ABS on them, pushing the brake, and the car isn't slowing down. The Mercedes was slowing down as it was entitled to do to enter the corner. Schiller was in the corner before the actual contact took place.
Well, I was talking about Alvaro Parent's CV and his experience. That's not what I anticipated, and it's not a common occurrence for Alvaro to nerf people out of the way. So maybe the Bentley had a problem, to give him the benefit of the doubt. But the net result is poor old Fabian Schiller is out, and whatever penalty might go Parent's way, it ain't going to put him back at the motor race.
Well, all the plaudits in his CV, there's going to be a bit of redaction done, I think, on that one.
Now, significantly, if this full course yellow goes to a safety car period, it's going to bring the opposition much closer to Bortolotti.
I mean, I feel sorry for Mirko because he's done everything he could do. The team have done a stunning job. And all of a sudden, the potential of that comfortable 26-second gap between first and second, Mathieu Jaminet and the Porsche, if the safety car is deployed, that will evaporate. But at the minute, I was pointing out the pace of Audi's, overall, they've been able to maintain a stronger pace than pretty much any of the other brands we've seen here this afternoon, and certainly in the case of the 31 Audi, that's been the class of the field. But Dries van Thor currently in fourth place. He's going to be in the tail if we go to a safety car of Felipe Fraga in the Mercedes. He's going to be in the tail of Mathieu Jaminet. So it's going to be, you have to say, the top four clearly are going to be, any of those top four could be the winner here this evening. It will be evening by the time we finish.
Indeed so. As number one on the track heads up towards the line, the Lumi rank there flashing between the position and the driver's name, and because we're under full course yellow, it blinks rather than just being a permanent display. But full course yellow conditions, and we anticipate under the normal way that race director Alain Adam operates, we would end up with the safety car. So how many back markers are between the leader and Mathieu Jaminet? Let's try and keep an eye to it. There's Andrea Rizzoli in 21st place going over the line. So Bortolotti goes through, race leader. And you can see the gap that he's built up, but it could, if we go safety car, all disappear. There is the number 100 Mercedes that is out of the gravel. And still, I think the leader has, the second place car has yet to go across the timing line. So it gives you an idea of how far back Mathieu Jaminet is relative to the race leader. It was about 23 seconds or so. So we await the cars through. There is the safety car out on track. So that tells you what is going to come next. The safety car will get ahead of the race leader, and that's going to make Mirko Bortolotti's heart absolutely sink, because whatever the gaps are now, they're all going to be immaterial. They'll all bunch up behind the safety car as it turns up through Tosa now. So our fourth race neutralisation.
Oh, well, catch our breath.
Indeed so. But a real shame for Fabian Schiller for his race to have ended like that. So, because the full course yellow conditions were called, so the gap had opened up markedly between the top two. Now we've gone to safety car. Of course, everyone, as you can see, speeds up and will catch up onto the tail of the leader. But what we really need to see is how many back markers there are going to be for Jaminet to have to work past before he can even think about attacking Bortolotti for the lead on restart.
So they're not going to wade through the back markers?
No, they've got the race leader. So the way this operates is the safety car goes out. Because it can go quicker than the cars under the full course yellow speed, it will get ahead. Job done, lights on. Now we're into safety car conditions. So the field coming into Variante Alta, and Andy Soucek, who was vacating the Bentley of Alvaro Parent, might have a full or two on the incident. He's Scott.
Andy, we've just seen your teammate Ferrante have a little bit of contact there with Fabian Schiller. Do you think he could have avoided that?
Well, I don't know. You know, when you're racing, you're always pushing as hard as you can. The main thing is that the car was great. I think we showed the pace we had behind Deletras. I was able to make a move on the Audi, also on the Porsche around the outside. I pulled a good gap. Unfortunately, the neighbors here pitted at the same time than us, and we had to push a car back, so we lost 2 positions on the pit stop. Racing is racing. You know, I think our car doesn't have that braking efficiency, and Alvaro tried on the inside. Fabian just closed on the apex. It was probably a misunderstanding, a bit unfortunate, obviously, and I feel sorry for them. But sometimes racing is like that. Hopefully we can still push and have a good end of the race.
Well, certainly you talked about your pace there, and it was absolutely incredible to watch you pull away so quickly once you made that move. Tell me now, the team, that's the new challenge for the team, racing across here in Europe. How are the team settling in and finding that challenge?
Yeah, I'm super excited and impressed with K-Pax Racing. I mean, what can I say? I've been driving for them for almost 2 years now. This is going to be the 3rd season, and it was already a mission to fly everybody over from the USA here. There was a lot of restrictions, but finally we made it possible. And now that they're here, without 1 day testing, we were running P5. I mean, there's nothing else we could have hoped for. Really, really impressive job from everybody in the team.
Thank you very much, Andy.
Thank you.
Andy Soucek then, work done. The car classified 6th at the moment, but it may be that an investigation comes into that incident. The first thing that's occupying race control is restarting the race. Then they'll start looking at any evidence. But here it is again, John.
Yeah, I mean, look, I never even thought that Alvaro Brent would try and dive down the inside. And as I say, it looked to me as if he had maximum braking capacity and it wasn't sufficient. Schiller was in the corner and their contact occurred. So, you know, that's unfair on Schiller. He's been taken out of the race and the Bentley's been able to continue. And the whole issue about how do you penalise a driver who's been the instigator of an incident, who gets to continue, and the innocent party is knocked out of the race, and that's their day over. There's got to be a fairer mechanism to deal with these situations, and it's not applying just today. It applies on a global platform in motor racing terms.
Every series, everywhere, yes. So 1-2 back markers between 1st and 2nd. So this really has helped Mathieu Jaminet, hasn't it? It has brought the number 12 Porsche back into the mix from being 23 seconds down. It is now 2.3 seconds back. Just depends how long it takes to get past those two back markers.
Yeah, he's got two cars to find his way through. I suspect he'll make it through relatively quickly, and there's those 2 cars that are nose to tail are actually in their own little inter-team battle. You've got the BMW and the Bentley. I don't know whether they're racing each other in their own category.
Well, one's Pro-Am and one is Am.
Well, then, yeah, it's unlikely.
What might go against Jaminet is if either of those back markers are not on their toes when Bortolotti accelerates away, because if he drives off and Jaminet is still stuck behind them before he gets to the timing line, that gives Bortolotti an increased gap.
It gives them the momentum. You could lose 3-4 seconds just in the space of being caught at the wrong time before you go across start-finish line. So, guys, just think about what's happening, be aware of, listen to the team radio. The team radio will guide you, or it ought to be guiding you, as to what the circumstances are. There is Alvaro Parent, and I wonder what his thoughts are right now. It's always interesting when a driver's involved in a situation where there is 2 different opinions of the same incident. But the one thing is true, the camera, while it can distort, it doesn't normally lie.
Indeed so. Field over the line. We've just seen those back markers, one of which, there it is, the blue Bentley that goes through the car from CMR. The Team Parker Racing Nikolai Schiergaard car, by the way, had a lengthy stop early with a brake drop. It's back out, but it's lost a few laps, I'm afraid to say. As Felipe Fraga there runs in 3rd place. This is going to bring Dries Van Thorp back into the mix as well, isn't it? He'll be a little bit nearer to the pack.
Well, he's the 4th of the top 4 cars, so I assume that once we get back into green flag racing, that's going to be the battle to the checkered flag. Whether any of the 2nd, 3rd or 4th place car driver combinations can do anything about the pace that I'm sure Mirko Bortolotti has got, the reserve of pace, I should say, that Mirko Bortolotti might have. Once he comes across the line, he's got the benefit of the 2 other category cars running ahead of him, and that would put Jaminet slightly in the back foot until he crosses the start-finish line. And then he's got to get ahead of those 2 cars anyway, so Mirko has got to be aware, and I'm sure WRT will be on the telephone too. Mirko Bortolotti saying, here's the situation. we expect you to deliver.
We've just seen, there it is in the background, the Bentley Motorsport Academy car. That's the one I was just mentioning that had its brake dramas a few laps back. Nikolai Sjægaard has given over now to Ewan Mackay, who we saw doing great things in GT4 last year, as was his brother Dan Mackay. Father Paul, former racer, until he had a very, very nasty Carrera Cup accident at Spa. But his condition improves all the time, and he's a very proud dad watching his two boys making names for themselves in GT racing. So Ewan Mackay at the wheel of that car. As I say, it's lost laps, but he's getting the mileage there in 108. Is the sole car in the AM class this weekend, and it is Stefan Tribodini at the wheel now. So safety car light still on, scooping up everybody. There is Jaminet, who will want to get past Tribodini.
And they've got 39 minutes remaining, so there's plenty of time for a second, third or fourth to think that they could win this race. And there's still an opportunity. We could still have another safety car yellow or full course yellow situation. You know, we didn't expect that one with Schiller and Perez. That came out of the blue.
It's true.
No reason to believe another one couldn't occur before the end.
I have heard it said that safety cars can breed safety cars.
I've heard it too.
Yeah, so you never know.
I do repeat it a lot like you do, David.
Years of practice these days. Incidents that years ago would have just been covered by a yellow flag, more and more have safety cars or full course yellows. So we've got the field here coming out of the Tamburello. There's the car in fourth place. I talked about Dries van Voor a little while ago. He's another of the standout Audi drivers. The Skechers backed car needs to be sure-footed in this last stint to see whether there's another place or two, or maybe even three that can be gained.
If the shoe fits, wear it, I suppose you'd say.
Safety car in this time. So you can see everybody now upping the pace, upping the tyre temperature and pressure as they weave around. Coming up towards Penatella is Dries van Voor, who we first saw as a 16-year-old in Formula Renault, swiftly moved across to GT racing, joined Audi, which is where his elder brother Laurens was. Laurens now with Porsche, and Dries becoming another of these excellent Audi drivers.
Tense moments because Mirko Bortolotti will control the situation once the lights gone out in the safety car. Once this race gets underway, he will be off and gone, in my view, probably before he gets to Ravazza. Just be careful he doesn't overtake the safety car before it gets into the pit lane. But I would think take the opportunity you've got and just try and have a compromise set up. There is the safety car lights out. Where is Mirko Bortolotti? There he's coming. Come on, Mirko, get on the programme. Give it one now before you get into Ravazza. He's holding it all back. He's got the BMW, he's got the Bentley behind. Now he's off and running.
But look, Jaminet is absolutely stuck there for another possibly 20 seconds before he gets up to the line, because the BMW is not on its toes as much. In fairness, they're not slow, those two back markers. Jaminet is not losing as much as he could, so he's still in with a fighting chance. Let's see what the gap is then. 2.3 seconds under the safety car. Now they break the beam. Race conditions, actually it's 1.6, but he can't yet find a way past those two slow cars, and this is going to be the problem.
Yeah, but it's his own fault. He should have been stuck to the back of that Bentley, just literally on its bumper. He allowed the gap to open up sufficiently to mean that by the time he came across the line, he wasn't in a position to try and pass. Now he's going to try and force the situation, and no success. Every corner he's losing probably half a second at least. Now he's going to think about it going down the inside into Tulsa. Up alongside the Porsche, can he get the Bentley, get it done? No, he can't, and he's almost in danger of being overtaken by those behind.
Bentley goes out wide, and now Mathieu Jaminet tries to get up the inside, but even though he's trying to lap that car, shows you the Bentley's pace up the hill. Right, Jaminet goes through. Whew, that's only a back marker. He's got to do it all over again now on the Porsche, just on the BMW rather, up the road, which is the Carimoge cars. It comes now down to Acqua Minerale, and all the while Bortolotti rubbing his hands with glee, because look, he's disappeared, he's away,
absolutely, but Mathieu Jaminet can only blame himself for that, because he didn't react as he should have done. Can't even get alongside the BMW into the Miriatis. Oh, be patient, Mathieu, because otherwise you're going to drive yourself into an issue and a problem. Oh, the BMW goes wide, but comes back on track, and that gives Jaminet. Now he's got the Bentley right on the rear, trying to maybe unlap itself. For what purpose? I have no idea.
Down the hill they come. Timo Boguslavski is on the attack as well. Sorry, Felipe Fraga, I should say, having taken over from Boguslavski, number 88, because he can sniff second place here with the Porsche being delayed. fourth, you need to be looking for the Audi of Dries Vanthoor, which is somewhere in all of that traffic. But the leader is gone. And what was 1.6 seconds last time? Let's see. Look, Audi. Fresh air,
5
fresh air,
seconds.
fresh air, fresh air. Porsche, and the gap from 1.6 will have gone up. We'll give you the update as soon as it comes to our screen, but Jaminet has certainly dropped back as a consequence.
Oh, I mean, look, sitting in the armchair, being a quarterback, as we often are called, it was obvious. You knew you had to be right at the Bentley's tail. You couldn't allow that car to open up a gap, because that was going to compromise you for the lap that was upcoming. And Jaminet just, I don't know why. I'd love to know his reasons why.
4.3 is the gap, so 4.3 seconds it has gone to. So 4.3 seconds, first to second, as the field now with 34 minutes to go work their way up once more towards the Piratella.
So Gtwc has got through as well. So, not Felipe Franca, I beg your pardon, the Brazilian former stock car driver, not stock cars as we know it in the UK, but that's what they call the saloon cars in Brazil. So, again, a driver who grabs the Mercedes by the scruff of its neck, but look at the field trying to make their way up through.
Vanthoor absolutely mired in traffic as he comes into Variante Alta now, so 33 minutes on the clock. Through they turn once more, and Vanthoor struggling, of course, to get himself up through all this traffic now.
It is a long chain of traffic. Vanthoor goes down the long way around, coming into the back. So that's the way you do it.
Yeah.
But you have to have the momentum, the pace, to ensure that you can pass cleanly before you enter the corner.
We have a drive-through penalty for Alvaro Parent in number 9 of Bentley. He's dropped down the order anyway, but a drive-through penalty for Parent, and not unexpected.
I hate being a harbinger of doom, but that was a no-brainer. There was going to be a penalty for the Bentley in that instance, because it just was clear that Schiller was the innocent party, taken out of the race, and the Bentley able to continue. So in relative terms, that's quite a light. You could have had a much longer time penalty added to your race time.
The Lexus is also being given a drive-through penalty for causing a collision. Remember, it had that moment down at the Tamburello against the Porsche of Andrea Rizzoli.
Yes.
Well, the Lexus is being given a drive-through for causing a collision as there. Look, Christopher Haase is all over the back of Bachler as they come now through Tosa. The Barwell Lamborghini there on the outside line being ran out a little bit wide as well.
The Bachler maybe breathing momentarily. Christopher Haase looking to get back. The Ferrari right on the tail of the... Yeah, it is not the tail of, almost on the tail of the Audi, but look at that group of cars. I mean, real motorway congestion stuff down the bottom of the hill. The 159 Aston Martin is out of sync in that group of it, isn't it? I beg your pardon, it's leading the silver category. So that's the car that Andrew Watson was driving now in on the road.
The yellow and white Rover Porsche there just ahead. Klaus Bachler at the wheel of it, and behind is Alessandro Pierguidi in the Ferrari. So a lot yet could shuffle out of this.
Cars, I mean, they're moving left to right. I mean, either trying to get out of the way or just doing whatever they can do. I mean, this group of cars that are racing for top 10 slots, other cars that are racing in their category, other cars that are being overtaken and lapped. Messi up into the top of Piratella. So the Ferrari stays way off the line, lets those quicker cars go through. But real congestion coming down into the middle part of the circuit, into Acqua Minerale.
And out wide there goes the dynamic backmarker Porsche. Skips back onto the circuit. Of course, that's having its own battle, never mind trying to get out of the way of the cars that are lapping it. I mean, where does Bachler go? He's got it. Oh, cars of Karimojay loses it, and all got a tag.
I think he's got a tag.
Yeah, he's not the only one in strife. Look, because you've had a spinning Aston Martin. Was that Valentino Asclo that has lost it? If it was, it's his Silver Cup lead possibly gone.
So we don't know who started that. The consequence clearly was the BMW was spun round, but everybody was so close. I mean, it was inevitable there was going to be a contact or other. The back of the Barwell Lamborghini is smoking now as well. Whether that's a tire rub or whether it's a mechanical. So you can see the left side, whether just get a close enough look to determine if it's a tire rub or something more serious.
Right, there's Asclo. He has dropped back, so it was him that had the spin, and Valentin Asclo drops back as a consequence.
Well, just about, there was nearly 10 or so cars all in one, it's like a fist coming into the Variante Alta, and again, look at just how congested it is in Tamburello. Cars trying to get track position, trying to get side by side mid-chicane. And the Barwell Lamborghini, that's the coat of many technicolored colours, or whatever you want to call it, pulls out. Up the hill, here we go once again.
So Haas Clos lost 10 places, incidentally, in that spin, and it has now put 78, the Barwell Lamborghini, up into the lead of the Silver Cup. So 78, the Kujala McDowell Schandorf car, up to Silver Cup lead.
So what's the gap now? And Mirko Bortolotti's just driving away from the field. They're all, you know, biting lumps out of each other to try and get ahead of back markers. Bortolotti just pouring ahead.
Now the lead gap, last time we looked at it, was 4 seconds. It's up to 5.4 now. So still, it's advantage Bortolotti in all of this, isn't it? Despite the efforts of the Porsche. And in fairness, we did say in the middle stint the Porsches weren't looking as quick as we might have hoped for.
No, they weren't. But Jaminet has gotten through, but he's got... I mean, the Audi right now has been the quickest car throughout the afternoon. As I mentioned earlier, Porsche will do what they need to do to get to the end. So they've got themselves into second position, but it's not second position they're looking for. Patrick Kujala had dropped the wheel of that Lamborghini off the road through the Ravazza corners. So Patrick Kujala, the leader in the Silver Cup in that 78 Audi.
Right, lead gap.
Lamborghini.
Yeah, lead gap 5.4 seconds. And Silver Cup honours then for Barwell Motorsport, Mark Lemmer's team, which has been one of the success stories over many, many years in this Endurance Cup, hasn't it? Not in the overall situation. Mark comes looking after AMs or Pro-Ams or Silvers, and whether it's 3 or 6 or 24 hours, gets the job done.
I mean, a stalwart of GT3 racing over many years and runs a superb team. They run in the category that they've chosen to enter, and they maximise that potential.
In the Pro-Am situation, it's Johnny Adam versus Eddie Cheever at the moment. Aston Martin ahead of Ferrari with Arthur Rougier's Santaloc Audi third in class. There is Johnny Adam. And behind him, as I say, is the number 93 Ferrari. But there's an awful lot of cars between the two. Johnny Adam is 15th overall, Eddie Cheever is 23rd, so Johnny just has to bring it home now.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing about the Cheever Ferrari is it's easy to spot because it's very distinct decor and signage.
So the leader goes by. Last time we were looking at a gap of 5.4 seconds with...
Borgoslavski's slowing down.
He has.
Fraga, Felipe Fraga, yellow flag.
That's why, yeah.
Oh, and there's the McLaren stopped. But where is that stopped? Is that coming out of... I can't quite... Well, open the camera lens. Let's have a look and see which part of the racetrack that is. Coming up to Variante, yes. That's a mechanical problem, one would assume, to be stopped there. There's no indication that the car's been off track. All of a sudden, Felipe Fraga was slowing down. Thought, oh, what has happened? And then we caught the yellow indication on the top of timing and scoring. There's the 66 Matteo Drudi Audi, and that's back in the pit garage. Disappointment for that car.
Yes, that was the one that led the first hour, wasn't
Absolutely. Been disappointment for attempt to.
So it is Mirko Bortolotti again, set to be caught by number 12. There's Mathieu Jaminet. We've done now 74 laps, onto lap 75. The gap was 5.4 seconds, but this might bring, of course, Jaminet back into the mix.
And if it does bring him into the mix, he needs to do a better job of getting off his marks when the track goes green. What he did on the previous occasion allowed that gap for Bortolotti to exist, and he just drove away from, in effect, Jaminet once he got clear of the back markers. And once you've built that lap or that gap up, it's very difficult to cut it back down again. The pace that Bortolotti has got available to him, and he's nowhere near extending his own personal ability or that of the car.
So Bortolotti again coasts down the hill. And there is Mathieu Jaminet. Well, this is perhaps more relevant now, because if we were to go safety car, no back markers between them. That would put Jaminet very much in the mix.
Yep. So Porsche back in the race, but, as they've always done.
But the best lap the Audi has done is half a second quicker than the best lap the Porsche has done. Does that tell us that the Audi is a quicker car? There's a battered Barwell Lamborghini in.
Yep, no, there's no doubt the Audi's been the class of the field all day long. But it's not about being the class of the field, it's about taking the checkered flag. And,
Very true.
Yeah. Well, that'll be another bill. Bodywork, carbon fibre panels, already had some gaffer tape on it to keep it in place, and clearly they need the locating points for that front carbon fibre guard. I mean, almost you could say take it off, but probably be outside the regulations. Time just ebbing away, so they've decided, I think that car is going to go back into the garage. It's going to be worked on there. It needs more than the 2 people that would be permitted. Look at the damage to the left front of the car.
So
that's a tyre damage there.
Yeah. That was Sandy Mitchell at the wheel, wasn't it? The 77. So the sister car with Patrick Kuyler at the wheel is leading.
There we go.
Silver. That's how Asclo had his spin.
And that's the left front of the Lamborghini.
Yeah. This is from another angle. That was Karim Auger having his moment with a bit of help. And as cars scatter, it's down to luck, isn't it?
It's just like a game of Skittles. I mean, literally, if you can get 10 in one bowl, you've done the best you can. I mean, you've got 2 out of 10 on that occasion. So, watching again, another replay up the hill. Boom, boom, down the gears. Cars just fan out, and all of a sudden, Sandy Mitchell suddenly found himself with an Aston Martin in a part of the racetrack he didn't anticipate it. So that was maybe more circumstantial than it would have been in some of the other incidents we've seen. Nevertheless, the contact came. It's knocked the Barwell car back into its garage, and it's going to be worked on. So any possibility of that car taking class victory has gone as well.
So there is Mathieu Jaminet. And there is indeed the safety car. Right, this is going to be interesting. With only 22 minutes to go, they're going to be nose to tail when they restart. This could be a proper grandstand finish, couldn't it?
I would love it to be. I would love it to be. But just need to get the Porsche to get onto the rear wing of the Audi, and then for Jaminet to react in the way I expect Bortolotti to do. Now, whether Bortolotti will go a little earlier, I felt that he could have gone earlier when the light on the safety car went out. He chose to wait until he was in the middle of a Revazza before he did. This time I would go as soon as possible to try and wrong foot Mathieu Jaminet at any occasion, any opportunity.
Just remind me, because it's been a long lockdown, brain not functioning properly. This full course yellow is because?
I'm trying to remember. It's that. Was it because of the incident with the up at the Variante Alta? Can't remember.
Possibly. Oh, it was the Mclaren that had stopped, wasn't it?
McLaren stopped.
Thank you, John. I knew you'd know.
Yes. It was, I was thinking of earlier, it was the McLaren stopped at the side of the track.
Yeah, thank you. So Ben Barnicoat out of the race. That was the incident. Yes, right. You can get that. Just testing. You'd know.
I was nodding off a little bit, thinking of looking at timing and scoring and wondering what might happen. Jaminet was originally 11.5 seconds behind before we went into this full course yellow, and therefore into the safety car. Now he's probably about 1.5 seconds behind.
Remember the SMP Racing Ferrari of Davide Rigon, but lost time in that pit stop, having to be moved across the pit apron. Well, it's also under investigation for blocking in the pit lane.
Interesting. I'd like to see what that's all about. Other than the car was in just about in its spot. Whether that would, I don't know.
Riding now with Eddie Cheever, and you see there the full course yellow sign flashing on the dash, so the drivers get the information. Alain Adam, the race director, warns of full course yellow in 20, in 10 seconds, and then gives them a count, and also the release as well. He will give them there. Is the car second in class, as I mentioned a little while ago, but a long way back because of the number of cars within the Pro-Am division. So to repeat, Johnny Adam is 15th, and that car currently is 23rd.
The McLaren is still beside the racetrack waiting to be removed, so we're going to have probably this lap, and well, the safety car deployment is unlikely to occur until that McLaren has been removed behind the barriers or wherever they take the cars. This part of the racetrack, there's not that many access points that they can slotted into, so it might have to be driven all the way up to the Variante Alta, where there is open space where the car can then be returned to safety. Look at the mess up at the top of that. I mean, there was a great little corner way back in the good old days in 1972. Wasn't a chicane in sight, nothing to hit, nothing to get into trouble with.
And in the Silver Cup, Patrick Cruyela for Barwell ahead of Andrea Rizzoli for Dynamic, and then Valentin Asclot in third place in the Aston Martin. Of course, he was leading until he got turned around. So Cruyela for the Barwell Motorsports squad. Mark Lemmer, the man that runs the team, it's his car, or one of his two cars, the surviving car now. Johnny Adam you're looking at, heading the Pro-Am category. And behind is the 72 Ferrari of Davide Rigon.
Clock ticking down. It's going to be at least, well, we're going to have probably at best 15 minutes of the race remaining, assuming we follow form and we put the safety car out as well. So that's going to take, at this pace, you'd take a 3-minute lap at this pace, maybe longer in fact. Safety car pace probably around about maybe 2 minutes and a quarter or something of that nature. So clock ticking away. So Bortolotti is saying keep the safety car out, keep full course yellow out. Don't want to change this, it's too dangerous, don't want to do anything that might, winning the race is about coming first.
Exactly right. The point being that we're not going to have a huge number of racing laps in. Bortolotti, having been up front all the way through his stint, will be mindful of where Mathieu Jaminet is. We've now gone safety car though, so that does mean the pace quickens, and it also brings us closer to the restart.
Very much so. So safety car, will it be a single lap safety car? Try and get this race back underway, give us the best part of 15 minutes before the checkered flag is unfurled. And racing here at Imola, great to be back. I love the circuit, I love this part of Italy. Bologna, I guess the oldest university city in Europe, if not, yeah, it's wonderful. And if you like your cheese as well, you got Parmesan from Parma, you like your cars, you got Ferrari at Maranello, you got Maserati around the corner, Lamborghini as well. A real motorsport cultural centre.
Yeah, indeed so. But Audi safety car leads Audi race car, leads Porsche, and then Mercedes, because Felipe Fraga is right there, look, on the back of Jaminet. That's something else he could do with that, because he wants to go after Bortolotti on the restart, but he's going to be mindful of Fraga right up behind him. And then it's going to be Dries van Thor in fourth, Christopher Hasse's Audi fifth, sixth Porsche Klaus Bachler, seventh Ferrari Alessandro Pierguidi, eighth Riccardo Feller in the Emil Frey Lamborghini that's had a good solid run, ninth the GPX number 40 Thomas Preining Porsche, and Rob Bell is 10th in the surviving McLaren.
Good to see. So will we come in at the end of this lap? Assuming that that's the message that the teams are given, we'll see it on our screen as well. I would expect, you've seen Jaminet now closing up to the rear of Mirko Bortolotti's Audi, and likewise the Mercedes. Felipe Fraga needs to get himself in touch. So if Jaminet goes, he needs to make sure he goes literally at the moment. So still no indication on screen as to whether we will have the safety car entering the pit lane at the end of this lap, or it'll be one more lap behind the safety car. I'd like to see it go in now. Dries van Thor in fourth place. He thinks maybe, well, he's got a car, he's got the Bentley between himself, so he ought to be right onto the gearbox or the rear wing of that Bentley. He doesn't want to be his Bentley. It was actually quite difficult to get past at the end of that previous safety car intervention.
Absolutely right. So there is Christopher Hasse then, heading down the hill in the Sansalot car that is fifth, the Audi. And his target is not the Porsche ahead, it is the Audi one car but one ahead of Dries van Thor. He wants to get onto terms with his stablemate. That marker, just something else that he's going to have to wriggle away past. Lots of the front-running teams, via the team's app, sending messages to the back marker team saying, please be careful on the restart.
Contributes to what the driver needs to do. As you say, David, you've pointed it out, and the safety car coming in at the end of this lap. So, Jaminet, get on your toes.
Yeah.
Felipe Fraga, whatever you do in Brazil, probably the Paso Doble, and was that maybe Mexican? I don't know. Spanish, possibly.
That's covered off most of
the nations of the world.
Absolutely, yes. Right then, down through Piratella they come. Well, if we have to have a late safety car, this tees us up nicely, doesn't it? With the top three together, no traffic, no gaps, ready to go racing.
The light's still on, the car's coming in. When the light goes out, I would almost, if I was Mirko Bortolotti, stand on the brakes, or as well, you're not maybe permitted to do that, but slow down in a more gradual fashion so that I am in control. And when I choose to go, then I'm going to go, and I'm not going to give you any signal. So the light's still on, and I would have thought they'd have been probably out by now, but wait and see whether that's the case. Look, Jaminet, no mistake this time, can't get any closer to the back of Bortolotti than that. If he does, it's going to be a dodgem car.
Right, the lights are out, the safety car has gone. Mirko Bortolotti has got them all stacked up behind him. Mathieu Jaminet could barely be closer, and they could barely be slower.
This is Bortolotti. Come on, Mirko, you're doing the right thing. When you get down just before the entrance into Ravazza 1, give it full bananas and off and running. And Jaminet, there he goes, he's off and running.
But Mathieu Jaminet trying to stay with him then. He's got to hustle the car, he's got to react, and he's got to hustle it through Ravazza, which he does. Felipe Fraga likewise now. Is Audi or Porsche quicker in a straight line, or indeed Mercedes? Because this is going to be key. We go racing with just under 12 minutes on the clock at Imola.
Fraga is the one I'm going to keep an eye on, because he knows that he's got an opportunity, at the earliest opportunity, to try and put the Mercedes into second place, but the gap. But it's the Bentley running behind, completely out of position. That's keeping pace, certainly once the race has gone back. And, well, Mirko thought maybe a little bit wide in the middle part of Tamburello, but nonetheless has opened up a gap. But Fraga is the man on the charge, closing down to the back of the Porsche, into Villeneuve curve, almost on the back of the Porsche. Looks go up the inside into Tosa, covered off by Jaminet, goes to the long way. Can he make the undercut as he comes out of Tosa? Get up the inside of the Porsche, up the hill towards Variante Alta. No.
But this, for Bortolotti, is the golden ticket, because the weaving Jaminet is having to go defensive, so Bortolotti is just driving away in the distance. Jaminet having to be on his toes, and look behind. Dries Van Thor has got through the traffic. The fourth-placed Audi there is on a mission. If he gets up with Fraga, that might release Jaminet. So Van Thor is a man to watch, Fraga is a man to watch, and Bortolotti is disappearing in the lead.
As you would expect, look at his Jaminet all over the place, trying to get heat and temperature into his tyres. And just for Fraga behind, wondering what is he doing. But look how close he is coming through Variante Alta. Now Fraga is not shy of making a courageous or maybe foolhardy move. Not going to make it down the hill this time. He's not close enough to the back of the Porsche. There's not many opportunities he's going to have in 10 minutes of this race remaining. One will be into Tamburello, the other will be possibly into Tosa, and he's got to work out which of the two is going to be my best shot. Not close enough behind, but Dries Van Thor is closing at the back of the Mercedes, and Van Thor is going to come into play before this race finishes.
Definitely, he's good for the podium, isn't he, here? And as I said, half a lap or so ago, if he gets, or when he gets onto the back of Fraga, Fraga goes defensive, that releases Jaminet. But while that is happening, Bortolotti has already built the gap to 1.6 seconds. So Audi, Porsche, Mercedes, talk about BOP working, 3 different brands in the top 3 overall. Dries Van Thor is there in 4th place. Christopher Haase is some way back in 5th, but Fraga is all over Jaminet like a cheap suit, runs a little bit deep there coming through Villeneuve, and is that going to allow Van Thor now a chance to challenge? Yes, the gap widens, 2nd to 3rd, it's right down 3rd to 4th. Watch the Audi now.
So Dries Van Thor benefited from the lack of pace from the Porsche in the Villeneuve curves. You can see that Fraga almost had to check up because he nearly overran the Porsche, nearly had contact. That drew Van Thor up to the back of the Mercedes. Now everybody's got an almost equidistant gap between 2nd and 4th place, but Dries Van Thor is the man of this group that is on a mission and has probably got the best of the 3 cars in this group to make it stick.
To Variante Alta they come then. Jaminet escaping by a length or so. Bortolotti escaping by more than that as they flick through the right and left, run out wide. You can see the amount of rubber that has been laid down over the curbs over the last couple of days. Proof of how much of the extra part of the circuit people are using. Downhill, Fraga dropping away as he has to try and cover off the challenge of Van Thor. 8.5 minutes on the clock.
Van Thor is trying to get himself into position, not to overrun the Mercedes going into Ravazza, but to make sure that when he exits, he is as close as he possibly can be. The Mercedes has got good straight line squirt. That twin turbo V8 just gives it that little nudge off the corner. Jaminet can breathe momentarily because the Mercedes is not sufficiently close in contact coming into Tamburello. That's Van Thor, the third of these three cars. And Jaminet has just managed to eke out a small amount, but the traffic that's ahead that's going to come into play could be the making or breaking. As fact, the traffic ahead is the race leader.
So Bortolotti clear now by 1.9 seconds. Gap going up. Fraga back onto the tail of Jaminet here. So Dries Van Tor drops back by a length, and Fraga, look, he's on his toes again. He thinks about the wide line in, the tight line out. But everywhere he wants to be, there's a Porsche, and Jaminet knows how to defend. So Mathieu Jaminet then moves across, defends, covers off the line up towards Peratella. Fraga can't find a way through there, but I'm intrigued as to why Van Tor has dropped back by a couple of lengths.
Well, maybe he's going to watch the action, because the action could involve two cars that could have given him an easy drive into second place. I mean, Fraga really pushed the Mercedes every which way he could to get up alongside the Porsche. Jaminet was having none of it. Dries Van Tor can't really do an awful lot, because the amount of moving the second and third place cars are doing in the racetrack, going one side to the other side. So Van Thor is having difficulty in sort of second guessing which way he should go.
Well, there as they head down the hill then with 7 minutes to go. We're on lap 82. Bortolotti clear up front. Mathieu Jaminet just missing that last nth within the pace of the Porsche, but Fraga now does have to defend from Dries Van Tor.
But Van Tor again getting himself into position as the race leader comes across towards start-finish line. So Van Tor closer than he's been on previous laps. So can he get enough of a drag, a slipstream all the way down past start-finish line, all the way down? Here we see the Porsche second, Mercedes third, the Audi fourth. Van Tor has got it in his mind. Can I make a late dive down the inside? Is it too big a risk? Can I risk it all with, 6 minutes of this race remaining? Or is it something I'm going to keep up my sleeve for the closing lap?
Christopher Haas, the fifth. He's a bit too far back, even though he's through the traffic now to get up with them. Bortolotti still leads, and the gap is 2.6 seconds now as again Fraga hustles that Mercedes onto the tail of Mathieu Jaminet. And Van Tor thinks about what he might be able to do to gain a place, gain two. He's closing up under braking at Tosa, and look at the Mercedes again on the gas is Fraga.
Undercut. I thought Fraga was trying to do the undercut. Didn't quite get close enough on the midpoint in the corner to give him the opportunity. So Van Tor's dropped back again because he doesn't want to be stuck to the tail of one of these two cars in case there is an incident. Jaminet consolidating, using everything Porsche has got to give him his track position, but the Mercedes and the Audi are clearly on their own in clear air, the quicker of the two cars.
5.5 minutes and counting. Van Tor pulls out, has a look, trying to distract Fraga, because if he does so, and that compromises the Mercedes line through Variante Alta, he can attack now. He's not quite able to.
Yeah, Jaminet way wide off the corner of the back end, snapped. Thought he might have lost a 10th here, a 10th there. Didn't. And look at Van Tor again, closes up on the brakes, almost into the rear of the Mercedes. Fraga doesn't seem to have the capacity, the braking capacity the Audi has at that part of the racetrack. In the meantime, Jaminet breathes, and only just under 5 minutes of this race to go. Another, 3 laps possibly.
There is Bortolotti then, breaks the timing beam, goes through. Number 72 Ferrari, I mentioned a little while ago, is being given a drive-through for blocking in the pit lane, but right now, defensive Fraga keeps Van Tor at bay, but only just. And look, as soon as Fraga goes defensive, away goes the Porsche.
Absolutely. So Fraga's now thinking about Van Tor. He knows that Van Tor has got more inherent pace, and Van Tor is just hovering around, waiting for an opportunity to arise, and it nearly came into Tamburello this time. That's why Fraga had to go defensive. That's why the gap between second and third opened fractionally.
Through they turn out of Tosa then. Mathieu Jaminet in this rather elasticated second, third, fourth situation, stretching the margin over Fraga, who now has to defend from Dries Van Tor. That car mired in traffic, remember, in the middle hour of the race, but Dries now hustling on, but losing out on this section, just loses a couple of lengths, doesn't he, to the Mercedes.
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot he can do, and up through Piratella, which is a very good corner. A lot of aero will come into effect. So whether he's just inherently falling back because he knows he can't do much of that part of the track and focus on the bits where he thinks he can, and he will close that gap down as they come into Ravazza under braking. He's got a better braking capacity at the minute than Fraga has in the Mercedes. The gaps have opened up almost equidistance, second, third and fourth place. So he's got 3.5 minutes to try and do something. I don't think Fraga's got anything left in the tank to try and challenge Jaminet right now. but I think Dries van Thor thinks possibly I could maybe get a podium position.
So here they come then up towards the timing line. Dries van Thor will go through fourth. Mirko Bortolotti with 2 laps to run, I would offer you, is ahead of Jaminet. And on that last lap, Bortolotti did an absolute best middle sector time. So with the fuel load lighter again and Mirko pushing, he's still able to deliver, and the gap is up to 3.8 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, the reality is he's doing it maybe as much for himself as he is doing it to consolidate his lead, just to prove a point. Changes over from one brand he's been associated for the last 4 or 5 years, jumps into a brand new product, goes out along with his teammates, has got victory in his hand.
So there is Van Thor out of Tosa. Behind them, 5th still is Hasse, 6th is Bachler in the Porsche, Pierre Guidi 7th for Ferrari, 8th McLaren Rob Bell, 9th Lamborghini Riccardo Fella, 10th Porsche Thomas Preining, and down through now the Pelotella goes the 2nd, 3rd, 4th contest. Jaminet, Fraga, Van Thor way out wide, so Dries there trying to maintain the speed, keep up the momentum, running a little bit wide, but he got away with that.
Yeah, it was, I mean, he was pushing hard. So not a part of the racetrack where he's normally got himself close. He is closer now on the climb up to Variante Alta, but not in any position to think about challenging. Just stick the car on the mirrors of the Mercedes-Benz. Hops giving a jump. Better exit this time for Van Thor out of the chicane, but needs to be closer to the Mercedes as they descend down to the braking in Ravazza. If he's going to have any hope of getting past the Mercedes, he needs to be literally as close as possible there at the Ravazza too. He climbed over the curb on the inside. That probably won't enhance his opportunity to get sufficiently close, and the gaps again almost equidistant, 2nd to 3rd, 3rd to 4th.
So the race leader goes through to start the last lap of the first round of GT World Challenge Europe, powered by AWS, this Endurance Cup opener. We expected drama. We have not been disappointed, have we?
No, it's been an amazing race, interspersed with full course yellows, safety cars, but I mean, it is a real tough racetrack. Physically, it's tough, hard on the cars. It's been a very warm day. Drivers have committed. You know, they're so happy to be back doing or fulfilling their profession. They've driven out of their skin in some places, and others that probably should have stayed in their skin.
And Van Thor is still not settling for 4th place. He has, on this lap already, done 2 personal bests in sectors. The WRT team set for a win and a 4th, seemingly. And this will be the first Audi victory in the Endurance Cup since Monza at the start of the 2018 season. And a great way for Mathieu Vazivière, let's not forget, and Mirko Bortolotti to start their association with Audi.
Yeah, I mean, 2 drivers coming from different teams. Okay, Mirko came from a part of the BWID family, but for Vazivière coming from an Aston Martin, totally different car. Van Thor has a little sniff, thinks about it. He knows that there's nothing left in the tank that he can do to challenge for that 2nd place, unless, but no, he's too far back. The pace of Fraga is just too much for the Audi to handle coming into Ravazza. Oh, he's having a sniff, but he needed to have done that maybe about 10 minutes out.
To the checkered flag comes Mirko Bortolotti. It's going to be a win for Audi in the first GT World Challenge Europe race of 2020. Mirko Bortolotti, Kelvin van der Linde and Mathieu Vazivière take honours at Imola. Audi beats Porsche, beats Mercedes. 2nd, Mathieu Jaminet across the line. Felipe Fraga takes 3rd. Dries van Thor 4th. And there, Christopher Harcher chases them home in 5th. 6th, wait for the Rover Porsche to come into view. There it is. Klaus Bachler comes across the line. And the traffic flows and flows and flows. It's like the end of the first lap.
I mean, that battle, look at the car. I mean, where do you look when you're in that kind of, you're thinking, is he in my class? No, I don't have to worry about him. Traffic all over the place. So what was at the front of the field, you had 4 cars battling for the lead, and there was about another 30 filtering through, about 15, 20 seconds behind.
Silver Cup honours to the number 78 Barwell Lamborghini, Patrick Kujala, Alex McDowell and Frederick Schandorf. And Pro-Am honours to Johnny Adam in the Aston Martin along with Chris Goodwin and Alexander West. But Kelvin van der Linde, Mirko Bortolotti and Mathieu Vazivière win a race full of drama. Great stuff from start to finish. Yes, we had the interruptions, but some fantastic racing, which we rather expected. So the cars now will make the run back to the pit lane and the scrutineering area. Just double checking that 108 Bentley did get to the end. It did, so honours in the AM category for that car. Well, Mirko Bortolotti may be new to the Audi ranks, but he's opened his account with the mark in the best possible way, as also is Mathieu Vazevier. We're in danger of overlooking Mathieu here, but he did a great job in that first stint.
Yes, he did. And I think, for me, Mirko jumped into the car. All he had to do was make sure he didn't get involved with anybody else's incidents. Showed his class, an outstanding driver in GT3 racing over many seasons. And, I mean, what a delight. I mean, you can't ask for more on your debut in a brand new team to come away with your teammates. Kelvin van der Linde, brilliant stint from Kelvin van der Linde. Mathieu did Vivier in that opening stint likewise. Maybe Kelvin van der Linde's stint was the one that actually was the deal maker in getting the car into position, and thereafter all that had to be done was to bring the car home, and that's been done. WRT back on the winner's podium.
It's been a long while.
Well, it's a long time, and yes, as they say, what's the expression? I forgot, a long time in whatever. But a race of incidents.
Yeah.
And I love this place, and I'd come here every day of the week. I mean, racing in Italy is always something special. Of course, racing here at this time of year, David, you know, the temperatures are high. There's 30 Celsius, track temperature high as well. It is a high work rate circuit. There's a lot of braking from relatively high speed, puts additional pressures on cars. Now, ordinarily, we would be coming to Italy maybe slightly earlier in the year, and you wouldn't be having to be confronted by those temperatures. But everybody's more or less behaved. There were a few lemons in the race. Some overtakes probably will get the whatever the prize is. There we are. Look at those boys, very happy indeed.
Absolutely. Mathieu Vazevier and Kelvin van der Linde get set to celebrate. So will Vincent Vos, the team principal, Pierre Giordone, the sporting director, and a happy team, that is for sure. Well, it's been a long time coming, the start of this season, but delivered in style.
Yeah, and that's been a very, very good opening to the season. And a 3-hour race has gone almost in the blink of an eye. There you can see the delight, Kelvin van der Linde, Mathieu Vazevier. So they are, and there we go. So a bit of a house music tonight with Mirko Bortolotti. That's his music of choice, he tells me. I don't know why he likes that music, but there we are.
I mean, not only have you got two drivers going to a different team and a different brand, you've also got the three of them having to work together as a combination for the first time.
Indeed, absolutely. So that's all, that kind of work partnership, that's good teamwork. Of course, for Bortolotti winning in Italy, his home country, that's another little sweetness to the victory that he will celebrate and enjoy tonight without doubt.
The GPX Porsche drivers then taking that second place. In other words, Matt Campbell, Patrick Pilet and Mathieu Jaminet. Mathieu taking off his helmet, threw everything at it, but it wasn't enough.
I wonder, just hypothetically, had Jaminet had the lead and it was Bortolotti behind, would that have been how they would have finished, or would have Bortolotti managed to find a way through? I mean, you couldn't have done more than Jaminet did in that last stint, but just didn't have the grunt for it needed.
Indeed, it's a good question, but Kelvin van der Linde, Mirko Bortolotti and Mathieu Vazevier are winners at Imola.
Boys, that was an incredible race. Well done to all of you. I think it's fair to say WRT are back. This is going to be a season you're going to be fighting. Mirko, you controlled everything on the release of that safety car so incredibly well in your stint.
Yeah, honestly, no words. It's fantastic to start with Audi like this, to win the first race together with WRT in this championship and with this car at home. So it's crazy, really. I have no words. It has to sink in a little bit. Huge thank you to my teammates. They did a fantastic job. Mathieu, the first stint, and Kelvin, what a drive. I mean, the team did an amazing job as well with strategy and everything. The car was perfect. Perfect day. That's about it. Thank you.
It certainly was. And Kelvin, that middle stint that you drove was very, very strong.
Yeah, I mean, in the end, you have to have a car that allows you to follow well, and the team gave me a perfect car today.
I think the guys in the stewards didn't want us to cruise home, so there were a lot of full course yellows and so on. So it kept it interesting, kept us on our toes. The team had to do the strategy and really time it to perfection. So yeah, just thanks to these boys and obviously to the crew for a great car.
Absolutely, and Mathieu, this is the first time all three of you have actually competed together as a trio now. This shows that you're going to be a force to be reckoned with throughout this season.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed my first race with them. They really helped me a lot to discover the car, the Audi, and the team as well, and the track. So it was really good and really helpful. And then we are winning together. So it's really a nice day, and yeah, we will enjoy it.
Well done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tremendous drive by all three, and of course they all had their own aspects to overcome, whether it was the full course yellow periods or getting through traffic or consolidating a lead.
Yeah, but that's a motor race. I call it endurance, but the reality is I don't know where endurance has gone, because everything is basically in one form or another a sprint, whether it's 3 hours, 6 hours, 9 hours or 24 hours.
It's a long sprint.
They're all sprints in one form or other. So 24 hours for me at Spa, or maybe something longer, we're willing to have confirmation, is about 24 one-hour sprint races.
So it's a win for Audi, but let's hear from the Porsche trio, Matt Campbell, Patrick Pilet and Mathieu Jaminet.
Congratulations. Second place there. It was a tough race, certainly. Patrick, that final stint there, certainly, very, very trying for you.
I mean, yeah, Matt did a great job. He finished the race, and it was quite difficult because we struggled a bit at the restart. But, I mean, I stayed stuck behind the Mercedes a long time in the middle of the race, but it's a great day for Porsche. It's the first race for us in this championship. Also, the team is still a new team, even if they won the 24 last year. And, yeah, we can be proud about this result.
Matt, in the middle there. We saw you weaving behind the Ferrari early on in the race and really struggling to get past. They were driving a very defensive race.
Yeah, it was very difficult. Obviously, around this circuit, obviously, the Porsche competitive Ferrari has some weaknesses and strengths in certain parts. So obviously makes it quite challenging, but this is the great part about this racing. And look, in the end, we did the job, and Mathieu did a great job in the final stint.
Yeah, Mathieu, that final stint was tough, wasn't it? Because, the safety cars bunching things up, having to restart twice, I think it was, at that point.
Yeah, definitely the race was tough but fun. I mean, it makes it more exciting for the people watching and also for us in the car. I really enjoyed it. Was definitely a good fight with the Mercedes at some stage, and we started to pick good pace at the end. So, but yeah, really happy for the team, for everybody at Porsche, and it's a really good start to the season.
Thank you very much. Well done, boys.
Thank you.
So near and yet so far, the gap at the end, 3.4 seconds after 3 hours of racing.
It is close. I mean, clearly, had there not been the safety car interventions or the full course yellows, the victory by WRT would have been significantly greater in terms of gap first to second. But this is what you get in endurance racing, and you have to consider and figure that in to your pre-race plan. But the key to it was certainly in part was that final pit stop at WRT. They gained massively out of it. And those pit stops, we saw a number of teams, drivers not coming in quite correctly, then the car having to be reset. And then you lose all that time. I mean, Fred Bavish is an example. I mean, did a brilliant job on the opening stint, led cleanly, came in, couldn't quite get the car placed where he wanted it to be placed. And consequently, the car lost, 12, 15 seconds trying to get the reset done before they could start doing their work.
He's not an inexperienced driver either, is he? Let's try and hear from the third place drivers then, because Mercedes are Raffaele Marciello and Timo Bogostowski, Felipe Fraga
Raffaele,
with
we said
Gemma.
at the beginning of the race, you said to me that it was going to be a tough one into that first corner, and certainly it looked pretty hectic.
Yeah, we have been quite unlucky, I think, with the safety car in my stint, because everyone was stuck behind the Ferrari, so I was not able to make a gap. And after this was only survive, and it's good starting of the championship. But actually, I was expecting a bit more of how the race was going, but it's okay.
Coming across Timo, the car pace, I mean, it wasn't easy today at all.
Yeah, it was hard for me because I stayed at home for months without the steering wheel and the car, and I arrived just to the FP2, and this is the first time here for me. It will be tough for me, and I don't have the good pace, but I think I will be stronger to the Misano.
Yeah, I guess it's the longest time that any racing driver has been out of a car with the whole situation of COVID that we've been suffering this year, and certainly putting you guys to the test. But great to get that first race under your belt and a third position at that.
Yeah, it was very good. As Timur said, we stayed like last race was in February, so but for everyone, I mean, I'm so happy to be back at the race weekend. We feel so good with the cars and stuff. And in the race was, Imola is a really nice track. I've been here in 2011 in Formula, but it's really hard to overtake, and we don't have a really good straight. But I think the car was really good. We didn't have luck with the safety cars because too much safety cars, and we could not use the best of the AMG, which is the degradation of the tires. I mean, if we had more proper racing in green flag,
sure thing,
maybe we could fight more. Yeah.
Felipe, thank you very much. Congratulations, boys, on your third position.
A good effort, that, especially in fairness by Timo Boguslavski, who stepped up to the plate. But the result: 86 laps of drama and a win for Kelvin van der Linde, Mirko Bortolotti and Mathieu Vazivière, ahead of Matt Campbell, Patrick Pilet and Mathieu Jaminet, Raffaele Marciello, Timo Boguslavski and Felipe Fraga third. Then it was Dries Van Thor, Christopher Mies and Charles Weir, ahead of Marcus Winkelhock, Dorian Boccolacci and Christopher Haase, with Werner's Porsche, the one he shares with Julian Andlauer and Klaus Bachler in sixth. Scroll down a bit, you get to 13. The Silver Cup winners: Patrick Kujala, Alex McDowell and Frederick Schandorf. In Pro-Am, it was a win for the 188 Aston Martin, Chris Goodwin, Alex West and Johnny Adam, and a long way down the order admittedly, but a class win for the 108 Bentley of Bernard Delhay, Romano Ricci and Stefan Tribodini. Lots of hard luck stories for some. Bentley number 3, 2 laps down. Had it not been for that early pit stop, could have played a much more important part in the race. But now, under the way that we must operate podiums, the drivers are asked to go and collect their trophies, and then they stand in front of the photo board. So there you have, for third overall, Timo Boguslavski, Felipe Fraga, and towering above them, Raffaele Marciello, who once again has proved that he's one of the real stars in a Mercedes. And for the season-long entrance across sprint and endurance, there are extra monetary prizes, €12,000 for the third-placed team. Those only if you are registered for both sprint and endurance. So, Mercedes third, Porsche second, as up come the GPX Racing drivers. Matt Campbell, Patrick Pilet and Mathieu Jaminet. GPX Racing that runs under a UAE flag, with Frédéric Fatien being based there, the team principal, team owner. But Matt Campbell, Patrick Pilet, Mathieu Jaminet, the two French and Australian drivers celebrating second place, and as I say, just 3.4 seconds back at the end of this first Endurance Cup race of the season. But for the overall win, there they are for Belgian Audi Club Team WRT. Might be a new venue for the Endurance Cup, but it's a familiar result. WRT coming out on top, even though it's got new drivers. So Mirko Bortolotti, Kelvin van der Linde and Mathieu Vazivière step forward as the race winners, and the check for a season-long entrant goes to the WRT crew. They get their winners' trophies and they step forward, and masks on, pose for the cameras. So, three very happy drivers indeed. Mirko Bortolotti in the middle, Kelvin van der Linde maintaining his successful association with Audi. Brother Sheldon drives for BMW, you'll recall. And Mathieu Vazivière, welcome to the Audi stable as well, as they celebrate overall honours here at Imola. And of course, WRT, the winning team, doing everything right, both on track and in the pits, John.
You can't get better than that. I mean, a great return for WRT to the winners' podium as the anthems are played out.
So the Belgian Audi Club squad, exemplary drives all afternoon from that team.
I don't know what it is that brought the Audi back to life. I think this revised Pirelli tyre may have made a contribution. maybe within the Audi group in general, there's been further development with the car. The car looked to me a much more drivable and raceable car than I remember watching it certainly last year. That knife edge sort of balance that the car sometimes appeared to have looked to be much more in control. You could lean on the back of the car more, and therefore you get better drive off a corner without the concern of that sudden snap into oversteer.
Well, there is the scene in the pit lane. And let's turn our attention next to Pro-Am, where Chris Goodwin, Alexander West and Johnny Adam defeated Chris Froggatt, Jonathan Hui and Eddie Cheever, with third in the class, Michael Blanchemin, Clement Zeiler and Arthur Rougier. Only the Aston Martin being on the lead lap, as you see Pierre Arret, Rino Mastronardi and Daniel Kalvitz fourth, ahead of Nick Homerson, Louis Macchiels and Andrea Bertolini. So the reigning champs a long way back in fifth, and then sixth in the class, Karim Auger, Gilles Vannelet and Nick Iolali, delayed after their early spin. And Pro-Am losing 3 cars through various incidents. So there you have young Clement Zeiler having his first GT3 outing, Michael Blanchemin and Arthur Rougier standing in the middle as the drivers taking third in Pro-Am. Then for second place, and again looking at the different brands here, Audi third, Ferrari second, Aston Martin the winners. It will be Eddie Cheever, Chris Froggatt and Jonathan Hui that will step forward as the second place team, the Sky Tempesta Racing entry, for a truly cosmopolitan lineup. Italian team operating the car for an American, a Brit and a Hong Kong-based driver. Jonathan Hui drove with Froggatt in the championship last year, but he's back for another season. Chris Froggatt moved to GT racing from Ferrari Challenge a season ago. There he is in the middle, and Jonathan Hui is there as well. So Eddie Cheever drafted into the squad, having raced in the Creventic 24-hour series events in the past in Europe, and coming home runners-up first time out. And then for a class win, another day, another Aston, another win, Johnny Adam, along with Chris Goodwin and Alexander West in the number 188 Garage 59 Vantage AMR GT3. They step forward, so Chris Goodwin, Alexander West and Johnny Adam there. Scottish driver, thumbs up, P1, yes Johnny, we know. And he's done it again. Reigning British GT champion, although sadly he can't defend that this year for a number of reasons, not least being that the the penultimate British GT event clashes with Le Mans, so teams can't be everywhere at once. But he's been drafted in at the 11th hour to this team and opening his account with a win. Chris Goodwin on the left as you look, Alexander West in the middle, Johnny Adam alongside. British team, of course, Garage 59, British national anthem played, and Johnny Adam, having only just taken off his hat, puts it back on, sets away with Alexander West and Chris Goodwin, and our attention turns next to the Silver Cup. Patrick Couillard, Alex McDowell and Frederick Schandorf, the winners for the British Barwell team, from Andrew Watson and Valentin Asclot. Could have been a different story had it not been for Valentin's spin. The Porsche of Andrea Rizzoli, Adrian Delina and Michael Pedersen coming home third. Aurélien Panis, Timothy Bourret and Thomas Neubauer penalised, remember, for a collision, so falling to fourth ahead of Florian Latour, Benoit Moulin and Andrea Amici. And there are the Porsche drivers from car 56. You have there Andrea Rizzoli along with Adrian Delina and Michael Pedersen, the taller of the three. Andrea Rizzoli, because he's Italian, he's cool and he keeps his shades on. And in the middle, Adrian Delina, switching away from Ferraris and Maseratis that he's raced in the past to Porsche for this year. Then for second place, the two drivers of Andrew Watson and Valentin Asclot. So one of only three crews doing it with just the two drivers. And Andrew Watson making sure that he's got the right trophy. And can we take one for the team, he says, because, you know, you've got 3 trophies, there are 2 of us, let's take one for the guys. So John was saying during the course of the race, it's not a case of everybody will have a prize, but if you know the right person to ask, you might get a spare trophy.
Well, you know, everybody's, you know, certainly across the different categories, there are prizes down to 3rd place. But thank goodness we haven't reached the situation where everybody gets a prize, you know.
Well, you do get,
motor racing.
Indeed, within the Silver Cup awards from Pirelli as well, a bonus set of tyres. And there for Barwell, Patrick Kuyler steps forward along with Frederick Schandorf and Alex McDowell. Good to have Alex back in international racing, former Clio racer and British and World Touring Car driver. And the Black Bull Bat Lamborghini takes class honours, so the drivers go and get their trophies. I tell you what, it's a much quicker way of doing a podium. This is.
I think there's a lot of benefits from having you know, the side effects of drove it at 19, and it means that it's all done on the pit lane. There's no direct podium. You've got a background, which is no different to the podium.
And for the British team, Barwell Motorsport outplays the British national anthem. Well done then to Patrick Kuyler, Frederick Schandorf, Alex McDowell as the Silver Cup winners for Mark Lemmer's Barwell Motorsport team, which has done another impressive job. And Mark, pleasingly not being the one to take the glory, letting other team members go and collect the trophies as well. But Barwell, a team that Mark, with a lot of assistance, it must be said, commercially from Chris Liddell, have put together to make a very successful team over many, many years, both in this series and in British GT, and a very successful part of the Lamborghini family. But we're not quite done yet, because there is an AM car as well. And when you're an AM and you're done, you can change it to civvies, can't you? So up step Stefan Tribodini, Romano Ricci and Bernard Delhay. And Stefan, because he was the one fresh out of the car, is the only one still in his overalls. But they take an AM class win. Sadly, the only entries within it, but importantly, they brought the car home without drama. They have enjoyed their track time, and they've got something to show for their weekend's efforts as well. Important too for CMR as a team. It's been running cars in GT3 and GT4 across the weekend, and it's had mixed fortunes, so very pleasing indeed to see some silverware going the team's way at the end of the weekend. So the AM winners then for CMR Classic and Modern Racing, a new team to the Bentley ranks, and running 2 cars, 107, so remember, up against the barrier, 108 coming home as the talked about Barwell Silver Cup win. Gemma Scott has found the winning drivers for us.
Boys, a fantastic start to a delayed started season, in fact it is. First place there in the Silver Cup. Frederick, coming to you first. You know, tough race here at Imola today.
Yeah, it was really tough. It was hot here in Italy, but it was really nice to be back in the car. So amazing feeling when it was turned green. So it was so good to be back after so many months of waiting. And I'm just happy about the team, and the drivers did a good job to finish P1.
Absolutely. Alex, your thoughts on that race there? It wasn't easy throughout. There was a lot of safety car moments, seeing the cars so tightly bunched up as well, and a lot, you know, not a huge amount between all the field.
Yeah, it was a really tough race, but luckily we knew we had a quick car and a really strong lineup. So I didn't get off to the best of starts in my stint, but managed to claw it back towards the end and set some quick lap times. But yeah, we didn't expect to come away with the win after where we dropped down to during the race, but we didn't make any mistakes, and that's crucial in this championship.
It certainly is, and to come away with the win, it means everything. Patrick, that final stint there, you look tired actually, and it's incredibly hot, and that was demanding.
Yeah, hot. It is quite hot. And yeah, first of all, thanks to Barwin. Great job over the weekend, and yeah, happy to be back.
Thank you. Well done, boys.
Well, Patrick Cuéllar, who was dominant a few years back within Super Trofeo Lamborghini racing, that put him really on the radar, having moved away from single-seaters. It's a shame we don't see him in an overall car, but Barwell very pleased to have him, and again, he does an immaculate job to win the class. So let's remind ourselves of the final result. Calvin van der Linde, Mirko Bortolotti, Mathieu Vazivière, the overall winners, from Matt Campbell, Patrick Pilet and Mathieu Jaminet, Raffaele Marciello, Timur Boguslavski and Felipe Fraga taking third. Audi 4th, 5th, Porsche 6th, Ferrari 7th, the surviving McLaren 8th, Porsche 9, Lamborghini 10, with the Silver Cup and Pro-Am winners both being within that top 15. After a trip through the gravel and a drive-through penalty, Engel, Stolz, Abril's Mercedes down in 16th place. Also after a drive-through, Parent, Suchek and Pepper's Bentley down in 18th. Also penalised was the Lexus 19th. It's of hard luck for some, but a good result from Aston Martin Pro-Am.
That was a fantastic result for you guys there. How did you find the race? You know, it was a demanding race.
Well, Alex and I have moved up from the AM class to Pro-Am this year, and we brought Johnny Adam with us, and I think this is the first trial for the package. We've improved the car, and you know, the running order we chose with Alex starting, a really strong first stint. I had a trouble-free run in the middle, and yeah, I have to say, it's the best fun race I've had in an Aston Martin
ever. Thank you very much. It's great to see you up there on the podium. Well done. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So Chris Goodwin speaks for the team, and Alexander West and Johnny Adam taking, of course, the plaudits for a class win as well. It's been a dramatic race, as we rather expect. Imola. Let's have a quick look at the highlights then. This opening round of the Endurance Cup, it was led away by Frédéric Verviche, and he was the man to beat across the first hour. On track, didn't do a wheel wrong. It was only in the pits that things changed. Drama, as you might anticipate, from the get-go as the cars dived into the Tamburello chicane, and there through the gravel went Mauro Engel's Mercedes, delayed slightly Rodrigo Baptista's Bentley that would pit at the end of the opening lap as Verviche tried to break away with James Collado in second place. There was drama early on as Christian hooked a wheel over the curb, ended up in the barrier, and that triggered our first full course yellow period of the race. Green flag, back racing as the car stormed away, still with Verviche in the lead as Raffaele Marciello came up to have a go at James Collado. Another casualty was the Umbrescu-driven Bentley, cannoned off the concrete. At roughly the same time, Jean-Luc Boboli was given a hip and shoulder off the road as well, and that was yet another intervention. The race was interrupted while that was sorted out. So the cars were just about to go again, where there was more drama. Number 23 Lamborghini being run into as they all bunched up ready for the restart, a wheel off, and that brought us to the end of the first hour, and it meant that lots of people dived for the pit lane under the full course yellow conditions, and it became a very crowded house down in the pit road. Frédéric Verviche didn't park quite as well as he thought he had, so the car had to be slid across the pit lane before work could start, and that added to the pit stop time. Stuart Hall had it off, but did get back on the road. And then as Calvin van der Linde worked his way through into the lead of the race, it was a lead that car was never to lose. Matt Campbell hustling his way up in the order with Patrick Pilet and Mathieu Jaminet to take second position. But all the way up and down the order throughout the classes there were battles. And the number 31 Audi given over to Mirko Bortolotti for the final stint as more and more pit stops cycle through, and we lost Finlay Hutchinson in the Haupt Racing team car. We also lost Fabian Schiller thanks to a rather overly aggressive move by Alvaro Parent that tipped the yellow Merc into the boonies and again brought out the full course yellow and then safety car that bunched them all up. Ready to go racing once again. Felipe Fraga was on his toes, Mathieu Jaminet trying to make progress, and it became very frantic indeed for a little period until we had yet another suspension. That was after, though, we'd lost Fred Verviche's car. Kim Lewis-Ram and Mathieu Drudy sharing it into the pits. More drama up at the Variante Alta with cars spinning, and that cost Valentin Asclot a class lead. But through it all, Mirko Bortolotti would come. We had a final intervention after the McLaren parked, but as Mathieu Jaminet chased, he couldn't catch Mirko Bortolotti, who, along with Mathieu Vazivière and Kelvin van der Linde victorious in round 1. Great racing from Imola, from John Watson, Gemma Scott and David Addison. It's goodbye.